Chapter 13. Yuan Xian pushed the door open and entered. When he looked up, he saw a man in a casual suit leaning against a black office chair. His long legs were propped up on the table, and the back of his head was resting on the back of the chair. His upturned face was covered with a book. Hearing the movement at the door, the man didn't move. It was as if he hadn't heard anything in his deep sleep. Yuan Xian wasn't in a hurry. He placed the potted plant on the table and unhurriedly took out a few scripts from his briefcase. He placed them separately on the table. Then, he knocked on the table. "These are the good scripts I picked out recently. Which one do you want to act in?" After a moment, his slender fingers took down the book, revealing a handsome face. The man lay lazily. He lifted his eyelids and said casually, "The flowers are dead." Halfway through his sentence, his eyes inadvertently swept across the potted plant on the table. A potted green orchid came into view. Thus, he changed the topic very naturally. "I really need work to soothe my sadness." Yuan Xian puffed out his chest. He knew he could control this ancestor. Then, he pushed the script to him. Siyu's eyes casually swept over the script and pointed at one of the scripts. "I'll take this one." Yuan Xian picked it up and glanced at it. Then, he nodded in agreement. "Okay, I'll contact the director now. I'll push the rest for you. This production crew will officially start filming in half a month. You have to join the crew on time. I'll send you the complete script later. During this time, think about it carefully so that you don't embarrass me." Siyu clicked his tongue. Can't you say something nicer? Was this something a human would say? He was the winner of the Golden Horse Best Actor Awards. How could he fail at acting? Yuan Xian snorted to show his merciless mockery towards Siyu. Siyu's eyes were glued to the potted plant again. "Qi Weicheng is back? He's back, you." Yuan Xian was about to continue speaking when he was interrupted by a knock on the door. Yuan Xian looked at the door and said, "Come in." A secretary with exquisite makeup and high heels pushed the door open and said formally, "Best Actor C, Brother Yuan. Miss Fang Shuirua is here. She wants to see Best Actor C." The woman tried her best to appear businesslike, but when her gaze landed on Siyu's face, she couldn't help but blush. That handsome face was too lethal for women. It was dazzling and mesmerizing. Why is she here again? Yuan Xian frowned when he heard the name. The word again was used cleverly, indicating that this was not the first time she had come here, and it also showed their attitude towards this. Siyu replied impatiently, "I'm not seeing him." Yuan Xian had no objections. He said to the woman, "Tell her that Best Actor C isn't here. Tell her to make an appointment with me before she comes." "All right." The woman nodded in response. She couldn't help but take a few more glances at Seeing D before closing the door and leaving with a red face. Yuan Xian clicked his tongue and said, "You're a scourge. Couldn't these girls see their nature? Appearances can blind one's eyes. I was born with it." Siyu strode around the table with his long legs and walked to Yuan Xian's side. He picked up the potted plant naturally and turned to leave the office. "I'll go back first. Call me if there's anything." Yuan Xian replied and reminded him repeatedly, "Remember to read the script." Siyu didn't even turn his head. He just waved his hand in response. Apple Entertainment had a special staircase for celebrities to leave from a secluded intersection to avoid being followed by the paparazzi. Siyu walked to the car park. Siyu carefully placed the potted plant in the front seat and fixed it properly. He closed the car door and walked to the driver's seat, preparing to open the door and drive away. "Best Actor C." A crisp and pleasant female voice sounded from not too far away, followed by the sound of high heels clicking on the floorboards. "Please wait." He had thought that he hadn't alerted anyone, but he hadn't expected that the woman who had been waiting for him to leave would appear here. It seemed like the people at Apple Entertainment needed to be taught a lesson. Siyu glanced at her casually. Fang Shui lowered her head slightly, took off her sunglasses, and looked up. "Best Actor C." Fang Shui's exquisite face was cold. "We need to talk." Siyu clicked his tongue. "I don't think there's anything to talk about." Siyu opened the car door and prepared to leave. When Fang Shui saw that Siyu was really about to leave, she hurried forward and reached out to pull the car door open. Siyu pursed his lips unhappily. "Miss Fang, you're the star of the rival company. Isn't it inappropriate for you to appear at Apple Entertainment like this?" Apple Entertainment and Orange Entertainment were sworn enemies. As the pillar of Orange Entertainment, it would be interesting if he appeared in Apple Entertainment and specifically came to stop him if he was photographed by the gossip reporters. He didn't want his name to be mentioned in the same breath as this woman. Feng Shui looked up at him, revealing her fair and slender neck. Her expression was weak and stubborn. "Where's my sister?" Siyu sneered. He crossed his arms and his lips curled into a cold smile. "How strange. Where is Miss Feng's sister? Why are you asking me about her? What kind of logic is this?" A trace of embarrassment flashed across her face. She bit her bright red lips and said, "You were at the hotel that day, right? My sister disappeared after leaving the hotel. We couldn't find her. Uncle is very worried about her safety. If you know where she is, please let us know. We're really worried about her." The day after they found out that her sister was missing, they sent people to investigate. However, they didn't expect to meet with resistance. They only found out that she left the hotel and where she went after that. They couldn't find any trace of her. It was as though someone had erased all traces of her. Other than Siyu, who was also at the hotel that day, she couldn't think of anyone else who had such power. That day, a reporter accidentally took a picture of her sister. However, it was suppressed and didn't cause a stir. Her friends in the industry told her in private that it was Apple Entertainment. She didn't know when her sister met Siyu and why he helped her. Siyu looked at Feng Shui as though she was a clown. "There were at least a few dozen people at the hotel. Why don't you ask others? If you can't find her, you can go to the police." "Okay." But Siyu didn't want to listen to her nonsense. He opened the car door forcefully, got into the driver's seat, and slammed the door shut. Feng Shui staggered and couldn't help but take 2 steps back. "Best Actor C. Best Actor C." She took a few steps forward, but because she was in a hurry, she accidentally twisted her ankle. Just as she was about to fall, a figure rushed over and pulled her into his arms. Feng Shui gasped and fell into his broad chest. She only had time to see the tail end of a low-profile black car before it drove out of the parking lot. She looked away in disappointment. Then, as though she remembered something, she looked up and said in surprise, "Brother Chang, why are you here?" Chang Zhuyu looked at Feng Shui affectionately. "What if you got bullied if I didn't come?" Chang Zhuyu felt uneasy when he thought about what he had just seen. He had come too late and caused the woman he cared about the most to suffer. Feng Shui retreated from his embrace and tucked her hair behind her ear. She said gently, "I can handle it." Chang Zhuyu sneered. "I think Siyu doesn't care about the Chang family and the Fu family at all." Feng Shui's eyes darkened and she said in a low voice, "I'm not really a member of the Fu family." Before she could finish, Chang Zhuyu interrupted her. "Why do you think that way? Uncle Fu treats you like his own daughter. No one dares to deny that you're a member of the Fu family." Feng Shui smiled faintly without a trace of sadness. "You know that I don't care about these things. I know that you're kind and considerate of others. You're so tenacious and kind. No one would dislike you." Chang Zhuyu said affectionately. Chang Zhuyu said affectionately, "Falling in love with you is the least regretful thing in my life." Feng Shui blushed slightly and frowned. "Uncle Fu treats me so well. I want to help him find my sister, but—" Chang Zhuyu's expression darkened at the mention of the Fu family. He sneered. "She treated you so badly, and you still care about her? She might not even appreciate it." Feng Shui said softly, "It doesn't matter if she admits it or not. In my heart, she's my sister. How can I be at ease now that her whereabouts are unknown? You're just too kind." Chang Zhuyu felt that it was unfair to his sweetheart, but he couldn't bear to blame her. After all, she wouldn't be at a disadvantage with him around. Feng Shui said worriedly, "But Best Actor C still refuses to reveal anything. If there's no other way, we can call the police and sue Siyu for kidnapping someone." "Don't." Feng Shui refused. "That's not a good idea. Best Actor C's fame didn't come easily. If this matter is exposed, his reputation will be ruined." Chang Zhuyu said jealously, "Why do you care so much about him?" Feng Shui shook her head. "It's not that I care. We can't blow this matter up." She took Chang Zhuyu's hand and said gently, "All right, let's think of another way. Let's leave. It'll be hard to explain if the reporters see us." "Okay." Her soft and delicate hand held his. Chang Zhuyu instantly forgot about everyone and everything else. There was only one thought in his mind. Shui Ruo took the initiative to hold his hand. Siyu drove the car away. From the rearview mirror, he could see a man rushing out and hugging the woman. He sneered. This adulterous couple was a match made in heaven. The car drove onto the road and merged into the traffic. Siyu pursed his lips into a straight line. When the woman mentioned the incident, he couldn't help but recall that terrible but not too bad night. He had been careless and had wanted to rely on his willpower to survive for a while until Yuan Xian came to pick him up. He hadn't expected that a woman would suddenly pounce on him. Moreover, it was a woman who had also been drugged. He had wanted to hold it in, but he hadn't expected the woman to hug him and squirm against him. He had lost his rationality and spent a chaotic night. When Yuan Xian rushed to the hotel, he knocked on the door, but there was no response. The first thing he did was to take control of the hotel and check the surveillance cameras. When he saw Siyu bringing a woman back to his room, he knew that he was too late and could only try to remedy the situation. Yuan Xian immediately destroyed the surveillance cameras and found out that the woman wasn't arranged in advance. Instead, she was the Fu family's eldest young mistress with a bad reputation. Yuan Xian didn't sleep the entire night. He was afraid that this matter would be exposed. He used all his connections to take care of everything. When he found out that the media was preparing to release negative news about Fu Yunruo, he suppressed it. He hadn't expected that Fu Yunruo would escape in a hurry after he dozed off. Looking at her posture, it seemed that she wanted to completely disappear in front of people. Yuan Xian hurriedly knocked on the door to wake Siyu up and quickly explained the matter. Siyu was very satisfied with Yuan Xian's way of handling things. When he found out that someone was looking for the woman with bad intentions, he wiped away the traces. In fact, he really didn't know where the woman had gone in the end. He didn't specially look for her. Even though they had crossed paths that night, they had never met before. Since she didn't want him to take responsibility, he didn't care. However, although the woman had a bad reputation, he didn't hate her that night. On the contrary, he felt that she was quite good. Otherwise, he wouldn't have helped her. But he didn't want to be targeted by an annoying woman because of this. Siyu knocked on the steering wheel. Since they were so free, he would find something for them to do. Fu Yunruo didn't know what was happening thousands of miles away. She tidied up her greenhouse and made sure that everything was prepared before the live broadcast. Then, she nervously started her first live broadcast. She only had a cell phone as her live broadcast equipment. This cell phone was her most valuable asset at the moment. It was the most high-end cell phone in the country. The resolution of the camera was very high, and the original image was comparable to a professional camera. After opening the live broadcast room, Fu Yunruo started the live broadcast based on her intuition. Hello everyone, I'm Yun Shu. This is my live broadcast room. The purpose of my live broadcast is to raise flowers with everyone. I hope that we can raise amazing orchids. This is the greenhouse. She walked around the greenhouse with the camera. Then, she introduced the utensils, seeds, and seedlings one by one. Then, she talked about her own thoughts. Regardless of whether there was an audience or not, she still spoke very seriously. As she spoke, she suddenly saw a pop-up comment on the screen. Mrs. Voice is so nice. I love it. I love it. Fu Yunruo's eyes curved as she happily said, Thank you for the compliment. Only then did she notice that the number of viewers in the live broadcast room had jumped from 0 to 8. She was even happier. It seemed that live broadcasting wasn't that difficult. Miss must be very beautiful. Show your face. A second pop-up comment floated past. Fu Yunruo playfully replied, I won't show my face. My live broadcast doesn't show my face, only the orchids and grasses. Hua Hua is so beautiful. Can you bear to only look at the streamer and not Hua Hua? The streamer is so interesting. Hua Hua wants to see it. The streamer also wants to see it. Fu Yunruo laughed. The streamer won't let me see it. Only the orchids and grasses. The number of viewers quickly jumped up, and it suddenly became 23. Fu Yunruo chatted with 1 or 2 active viewers for a while, then said, Back to the topic. I'm going to start planting flowers. This is the seed of the lotus petal orchid. This is the jade magnolias. Fu Yunruo introduced the types of seeds, fixed her phone, and aimed the camera at the empty flower pot on the table. This was an angle that she had spent a long time studying. It could clearly capture her movements, but she would not appear in the camera. Originally, Fu Yunruo only planned to raise one pot of flowers and try to raise a mutated orchid. However, Uncle Gua gave her a lot of orchid seeds and sprouts. Fu Yunruo decided to choose 10 types of orchids and only cultivate 10 pots. Her energy was limited, so she could only focus on raising so many orchids. Of these 10 types of orchids, I've decided to choose a lucky audience to choose the seeds every day. I chose the lotus petal orchid seed myself, so I'll plant this today. As Fu Yunruo explained, she adjusted the soil ratio and placed it into a container to plant the lotus petal orchid seed. Finally, she took her phone and looked at the screen. The number of viewers had already reached 259, and there were many more messages on the screen. Everyone seemed to be very interested in the matter of choosing the seeds. Also, they were interested in her, the streamer. Fu Yunruo finally said, "Next, I'll post a message on the forum and launch a poll for tomorrow's seeds. Everyone, please vote and leave a message to support whatever flowers you want to raise. Click on the top right to follow the streamer and don't get lost. See you tomorrow." After saying that, Fu Yunruo turned off the live broadcast. She went to the personal center to check the data of her live broadcast room. At the peak of her popularity, there were nearly 400 people, but they just came in and out. In the end, an average of 200 people stayed. She was very satisfied with the data and felt very surprised. She thought that no one would watch her live broadcast on her first day. Chapter 14. Panda live streaming was quite friendly to newbies. There was a column dedicated to recommending new live streaming rooms, and there was a 15-day recommendation period. During these 15 days, she would have the opportunity to show her face in the recommendation column when she was live streaming. It was possible that she would only show her face for 15 seconds if she live streamed for 2 hours a day. However, one had to know that Panda live streaming was one of the largest live streaming platforms in the world. There were 3 billion registered users, and the average daily traffic was 1 billion times. The daily traffic in the country also reached 100 million people. It could be said that even if it only appeared in the recommendation column for a second, there would be thousands of people on average. There might be 200 to 300 people who would click on it. At this time, it was time to see whose cover would attract more people to watch. The cover of Fu Yunruo's live streaming room was a blooming orchid. The category she chose was also related to plants, so it attracted people who were generally interested in flowers. Among the audience who had settled down to watch, nearly half of them paid attention to her. The next time she live streamed, these people would be the foundation of her popularity. After Fu Yunruo saw the data, she quickly went to the forum to post a message and started voting. There was a forum in the app, and the traffic was not low. It was comparable to a second Weibo. If the fans of celebrities were on Weibo, then the fans of broadcasters were on the forum. However, the two were also interconnected. Many popular figures would manage fans on both sides at the same time. After posting, Fu Yunruo could not help but go back to the bullet screen in the live streaming room. Previously, she was more focused on explaining and did not see many of the comments. Now that she looked again, the audience was very friendly. These viewers were roughly divided into 2 categories. One was attracted by her live streaming content, and the other was attracted by her voice or her hands. No matter what, at least she stayed for the time being. Moreover, she received a gift. Although it was a free little bamboo given by the app every day, Fu Yunruo clenched her fists and jumped happily. Then, she continued to fiddle with the orchid with a smile on her face. Although these were not live streamed, the flower seedlings that had been separated had to be planted and raised well. Uncle Gua was watching one baby outside. He knew that today was Fu Yunruo's first live stream, so he carefully played with the child and tried not to make any noise. He could vaguely hear her voice, and she seemed to be very happy. He did not understand these things, but this should be very good. Uncle Gua sat beside the floor mat and looked at the chubby, white, and cute little guy kindly. After replanting the area of the flower shed, a special area was created. The surrounding area was surrounded by wooden strips, leaving only a small path for one person to pass through. The area was not large, only enough to fit a floor mat. However, for a child who had just learned how to crawl, this area was enough for him to explore. Chiwen really wanted to know how the woman's livestream turned out. Did anyone say anything bad about her? Would the woman be hurt and upset after seeing it? Chiwon had a lot to worry about. He played with the building blocks absent-mindedly and pricked up his ears to listen to the movements inside. It was not easy to hear that the room seemed to have completely quieted down. There was no sound of talking. Chiwon thought that it should be over. Chiwon waited for a long time, but no one came out. He couldn't hold it in any longer and let out a few loud cries. Why didn't he come out when it was already over? She couldn't have forgotten about him, right? Old Man Gua immediately picked up the small building blocks scattered on the side and tried to put on a kind face. Grandpa, play with one. Let's build a small house together. Chiwon said to Grandpa Gua. He didn't want to play. He just wanted to know how the live stream turned out. If there was no audience, he would be merciful and comfort her. In any industry, everything was difficult at the beginning. Don't give up easily because of a small setback at the beginning. Fu Yunrua had just planted the seedling into the flower pot when she heard her son's childish voice. She quickly put the potted plant away and ran out to find her son. Baby, Mommy is here. Fu Yunrua quickly walked over, took off her shoes, and entered her son's territory. She picked up his soft and fragrant little body and kissed him a few times. Then, she rubbed his little face. After coaxing her baby son, Fu Yunrua smiled and said to Uncle Gua, Uncle Gua, thank you for looking after Wenwan. Uncle Gua was rarely gentle. Wenwan is very obedient. It's not hard. Uncle Gua stood up and took a few more glances at Wenwan. Chiwon turned his head to look at Grandpa Gua and made a sound at him. He even waved his little chubby hand at him as if he was saying goodbye. Old Man Gua immediately left with his hands behind his back, satisfied. Fu Yunrua sat on the cushion and held Wenwen's baby in front of her. She pinched the baby's chubby little hand. Every time she pressed, the baby's hand would bounce back. She simply couldn't stop. Fu Yunrua's greatest sense of accomplishment was raising her son to be fair, chubby, and healthy. His little hands and feet were like lotus roots, and his beautiful and cute little face was also chubby and bouncy. He really made people love him so much that they couldn't bear to part with him. Chiwon allowed this woman to touch him. His chubby little face was full of helplessness. He tried his best to keep a straight face, but his black pearl-like bright eyes were full of smiles. Chiwon looked up at Fu Yunrua and patted her with his little hand. He was serious, as if he was talking to Fu Yunrua. Fu Yunrua was so adorable that she couldn't take it anymore. She rubbed her son again before hugging him in satisfaction and muttering, Baby, we'll be able to earn a lot of money soon. Mommy's live stream is very popular. Who knows, I might be able to reach the peak of my life very soon and bring you to eat and drink well. Once Fu Yunrua started talking, she couldn't help but want to talk, even if her baby didn't understand. Do you know how many people are following me after I ended the live stream? 119. I already have so many fans. This is my first day of live streaming. If I gain 100 fans today, it will be 1,000 in 10 days. Wouldn't it be 10,000 in 100 days? I'll live stream for 1 or 2 years. Oh God, the number of fans she had was almost uncountable. Fu Yunrua seemed to see a beautiful road ahead. Chiwon. He really couldn't bear to discourage her. Fans weren't calculated like this. He used to have an account on Panda Livestream. At his peak, he had more than 100 million followers. On average, the number of active fans per day was at most 10 million. Moreover, fans would come and go. Some people would follow, and some would unfollow. The fans now might be passers-by who followed in passing. They couldn't be considered fans yet. In order to turn passers-by fans into real fans, he needed to have better quality works and show a side that fans appreciated and were fascinated by. There had to be something that touched the fans. Moreover, Panda Livestream's newcomer recommendation period was only 15 days. After 15 days, if there was no contract or platform promotion, they would purely rely on popularity to get on the list. The rookies, who had no way to stand out, were left with no chance of making a splash. Finally, they fell silent. Forget it, he didn't know how to speak. If she lost fans, he would reluctantly give her a kiss to comfort her. Fu Yunrua was extremely excited the whole day. She couldn't help but look at the forum's comments from time to time. There weren't many people voting at the voting window. There were only about 20 people, and there were only 3 to 5 comments. However, Fu Yunruo couldn't help but refresh from time to time to see if there were any new votes or new comments. Adding a new comment in half a day made her extremely happy. However, there were many things to do in the flower bed. She also had to take care of a baby. She didn't have much free time. The day passed quickly. At night, after washing up, Fu Yunruo hugged the baby's soft body. She couldn't help but pick up her phone again. She hadn't looked at it for 3 hours. She didn't know if there were any more comments. She wanted to see which type of orchid to plant tomorrow. As Fu Yunruo scrolled, she suddenly screamed. Her popularity and followers had decreased. Fu Yunruo refreshed a few times. She was very sure that there were 8 fewer followers. She suddenly looked sad. Why didn't it increase? Chiwen subconsciously raised his 2 chubby little feet forward and grabbed them with both hands. His flexible little body bent into an incredible arc. He raised his little feet and turned to look at the woman. He wasn't surprised that she had lost fans. Thinking of the thoughts he had during the day, he put down his little feet and twisted his body. He climbed onto her body and leaned over to give her a domineering kiss. All right, don't be discouraged. Don't be disheartened. Fu Yunruo's cheeks were suddenly touched softly. She was so shocked that she almost dropped her phone. Her baby rarely took the initiative to get close to her. Fu Yunruo looked at her son and was so touched that her eyes welled up with tears. Was her baby comforting her? She was too touched. The touched Fu Yunruo molested when won from head to toe. The struggling baby was like a little tortoise that had been flipped over. His 4 limbs were flailing in the air. Ah, this despicable woman. Chapter 15. Chiwen's small body was as red as a crayfish. He struggled to break free from the woman's molestation and crawled to the innermost part of the bed. He lay on his stomach and shut himself in. This woman was too despicable. He was comforting her out of kindness, but she actually treated him like this. Did he not want his face? He was angry. Fu Yunruo snickered behind his back. The baby was still so shy. He was really too cute. Even though she wanted to pounce on him again, she knew that if she continued, the baby would fly into a rage out of humiliation and ignore her for a few days. However, after the baby's comfort, Fu Yunruo's depressed mood was swept away, and her mood became cheerful. Fu Yunruo waited for a long time. When her son's angry hair was soothed, she carried the shy baby over and hugged him by her side. Her palm patted the baby's back regularly and gently. Chiwen Ruo closed his eyes tightly and buried himself in. He half lay on the soft body and adjusted his comfortable position. Under the rhythmic patting, he quickly fell asleep. After coaxing the baby to sleep, Fu Yunruo continued to browse the forum. She was originally very satisfied with her data, but now that she was hit by reality, her high mood cooled down. She began to worry about her gains and losses. She did not know what kind of data a newbie's first livestream would pass. Fu Yunruo flipped through the forum for a long time and finally found a more reliable data analysis. Then, she compared her data. She immediately knew what was going on. She was considered to be above average. Her results were not bad. Although she could not compare to those streamers who became popular as soon as they started their live stream, they were in the minority. Most of them were people who slowly accumulated popularity. As long as she could stabilize herself, there would be a day when she could do it. Fu Yunruo had an idea in her heart. Only then did she put down her phone. She hugged the hot stove and fell asleep contentedly. The next day, Fu Yunruo brought the child to the flower bed early. She was prepared to help Uncle Guo with the work in the flower bed first before doing her own things. However, Uncle Guo chased her away in disdain and told her to only care about the work in the small greenhouse. Uncle Guo said very clearly that the task he gave her was to take care of the seeds and flower seedlings that he gave out. Fu Yunruo had to go to the small greenhouse. She tidied up a little, then turned on the live broadcast. The camera was aimed at the soil where she had just planted the seeds yesterday. Good morning, my friends. We meet again today. What if Fu Yun had just said something, and the upper right corner of the screen showed that there was only one viewer? Fu Yun was puzzled. Didn't she have more than 100 followers yesterday? Why didn't anyone watch her live stream? It couldn't be fake attention, right? Fu Yunru suddenly slapped her head. Why did I forget to inform you of the broadcast time yesterday? Since the fans didn't know when the broadcast would start, they naturally wouldn't come. The blogger is so cute 2333. At this moment, a comment floated over. Although it was only one fan, Fuyan still treated it seriously and explained seriously. This is my first time doing a live broadcast. I don't have any experience. You'll know next time. Bloggers can activate the automatic push function. That's right. Why didn't she think of that? She turned on the push function. As long as she started the broadcast, it would automatically be pushed to her fans. If she didn't turn it on, it wouldn't be automatically pushed. On the other hand, if fans felt that it was too troublesome to constantly receive notifications, they could block all or part of the notifications from the blogger. This was a two-way choice. Fuyan Ruo held her phone and quickly found the settings. Then, she turned it on. Just as she returned to the live stream interface, she saw another comment. The blogger can also upload the video of her every live stream to the homepage. This way, future viewers can watch your previous live streams. That's right. Fans can also watch it in the future. Soon, there were already 18 people watching the live stream. Fuyan Ruo listened to their opinions very seriously. Yes, that's true. Previously, she was only thinking about how to start a live stream. She didn't think about what to do after starting a live stream. But how was the screen recording done? Under the guidance of her fans, Fuyan Ruo finally understood. This screen recording was automatically recorded by the platform. There would be an initial live stream video in her personal platform. The streamer could edit or modify the video slightly to make it more lively and interesting before uploading it to the homepage. It was inconvenient without a computer. Fuyan Ruo had not started to earn money yet and was already thinking about spending money. However, this was a necessary investment. After calculating the money she had available, it was pitifully little. Fuyan Ruo silently dismissed this idea. It was better to wait until she earned more money. She could not touch that money. She had to raise her baby. She did not know if it was because of the push function, but the number of viewers quickly jumped up. Fuyan Ruo also started to plant the second variety of orchid seeds. After a night, the number of people voting on the forum was still not many, but there was obviously a higher support rate in the choices. The second variety was the seeds of the Jasper Magnolia. She explained as she planted the seeds. Then, she said, "All right, the second child has been planted. Next, let's look forward to the birth of the second child." Second child, HHH. Yes, this is our second child. Next, let's pay attention to the eldest child. Although we already have a second child, we can't reduce our attention to the eldest child. Otherwise, if the eldest child gets jealous and doesn't germinate, the second child will germinate first. That wouldn't be good. Yunyun Ruo is really funny. Yes, we can't let the second child be born before the eldest child. Ha ha, Fuyan Ruo could not help but laugh. Time passed very quickly. Fuyan Ruo saw that it was about time and was ready to go offline. Then, she said, "All right, according to yesterday's rules, I will start a vote on the forum later. Whoever you want to be the third child, move your fingers and cast a precious vote. Finally, remember to click on the top right to follow the live broadcast. Let's continue chatting tomorrow." Then, she said the time of tomorrow's live broadcast before closing the live broadcast. Fuyan Ruo's live broadcast time was actually not friendly. She started the live broadcast before 7 in the morning and ended around 10 in the morning. At this time, she was either still dreaming in bed or rushing to work. During work hours, it was also the time when students went to school. That was the time when there was the least traffic. The most traffic was on weekends, holidays, and after 6 in the evening. Fuyan Ruo's live broadcast time happened to miss the peak traffic period. Most of the people who came to watch her live broadcast in the morning were office workers who turned on the live broadcast during the taxi period. For the time being, they could not take advantage of the peak traffic period at night. They could only take advantage of the small peak traffic period around 7 in the morning and 12 in the afternoon. Fuyan Ruo felt that it was most suitable to plant flowers early in the morning. Therefore, she decided to do a live broadcast at this time for the time being. After the live broadcast ended, Fuyan Ruo started the second round of voting and looked at the data. Today's data had more than tripled from yesterday. The comment section was also much livelier. Her number of followers was close to 400, and there was one more than yesterday. She had received a gift. Yesterday's gift was the little bamboo that the platform gave her for free every day. Today, it was not only the little bamboo, but someone had also given her a reward. She looked at the platform. Those gifts were converted to RMB, which was 20 yuan. One had to know that this was the amount after she split it with the platform. Fu Yunruo was very happy and was even more motivated. She wanted to do better, so she became more and more attentive to the live broadcast. In another city, in a high-end villa area with high privacy, Yuan Xian stood in front of a villa in an aggressive manner. He pressed the doorbell and shouted at the camera, "I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. See you. Open the door for me. I know you're inside. If you have the guts, hide in the house. If you have the guts, open the door for me." Yuan Xian shouted outside for a long time before the door slowly opened. He rushed in without stopping. Siyu walked out leisurely with a languid expression. "Who made our Yuan angry? Look at how angry you are. Your hair has exploded. You're already bald. If this goes on, you'll become bald. You still have the cheek to say that." Yuan Xian was furious. "Filming is starting tomorrow, and you're still so relaxed. As the male lead, do you still want to be absent?" Siyu frowned. "I'm not in the mood, master. I called you ancestor. What's wrong with you?" Siyu's gaze shifted to the greenhouse in the courtyard. The flowers are dead. Siyu's greenhouse was specially built to raise flowers. It was well equipped, but it was bare inside. There were no flowers, not even sprouts. Yuan Xian. The orchid that he had painstakingly obtained finally couldn't withstand Best Actor C's poisonous gas attack after stubbornly surviving for 12 days. Had it died in battle? Yuan Xian said coldly, "Give up. You can't raise a flower." He really admired Siyu. How did he manage to kill every flower he tried to raise? He was simply crazy. Siyu was possessed by a drama queen. His eyes were filled with resentment and hatred, mixed with love and lust. It was heartbreaking to watch. Why? All my thoughts are on it. I've always kept it in my eyes and in my heart. I've sacrificed so much for it, but it's still determined to leave me? Even though Yuan Xian had seen his acting countless times, he couldn't help but be led by the nose. This time, he steeled his heart and avoided looking at him. Could it be that I'm too handsome? So handsome that it's too ashamed to face me and decided to just die? Siyu instantly switched to his narcissistic mode. He touched his face. Today was still a day of frustration over his extreme handsomeness. Shameless. Yuan Xian spat in his heart. He really didn't have the energy to complain. "Tell me, what will it take for you to go to the set?" Yuan Xian crossed his arms. He really wanted to drag him to the car and go to the set immediately. "I want to raise flowers. People always said that if they couldn't get something, they would want it even more." Since young, Siyu naturally had countless people eagerly giving him whatever he wanted. There was nothing he couldn't do. However, since kindergarten, his teacher had given him a homework assignment. He had to learn how to raise a flower with his family. That was the only assignment that he couldn't complete until now. He didn't believe in ghosts. At that time, he had chosen orchids for the assignment, so he had a conflict with them. After so many years, he had gotten used to raising orchids from time to time. Yuan Xian face-bombed. This problem was unsolvable. He also didn't know how to make Siyu raise a flower. Was he supposed to ask someone else to do it for him? Yuan Xian had a flash of inspiration. He had an idea. "So as long as you succeed in raising the flower, you'll focus on acting?" Siyu raised his eyebrows and nodded lazily. Yuan Xian pushed his luck. "There's a talk show. As long as I can raise the flower, I'll go on the talk show. This year's Spring Festival Gala?" Siyu looked at Yuan Xian suspiciously. He was so arrogant. Did he really have a way? "I'll do it." Yuan Xian instantly smiled. He swiped his phone screen and opened an app. "Here, you can raise flowers here." "What do you mean?" "There's a blogger who's raising orchids here. You can raise flowers here." Yuan Xian thought about the live stream that he had seen 2 days ago. He had found it interesting and casually asked about it. He knew that it was a live stream about raising orchids. Chi Weicheng had also told him about it. He thought, isn't this just right? Since Siyu couldn't raise orchids, he could raise them in the cloud. This guy couldn't possibly poison orchids that were thousands of miles away, right? He searched for the live stream that he had seen that day. After confirming that it was this live stream, he sent it to CU. You can raise flowers here in the future. The streamer starts from seeds. I heard that she wants to try raising a mutated variety. Who knows, you might not only be able to raise living orchids, but you might also be able to raise a mutated variety. CU raised his eyebrows. Yuan Xian said confidently, raising flowers in the cloud is still raising flowers. You won't deny it, right? CU glanced at him indifferently and thought, when did this guy become so smart? Yuan Xian kept recommending, I don't like to watch such live streams, but I have to say that this blogger was born to do this. Raising flowers isn't boring at all. Also, she started these voting campaigns to let the audience choose the variety. It's very attractive to those who really want to raise flowers, but have to put it on hold due to various problems. CU was a little interested. However, there was no live stream at this time, so everything had to be decided. She said, I hope it's as interesting as you say. Otherwise, you can forget about the interview and the annual meeting. As she spoke, CU went back into the house and brought out her luggage that she had packed earlier. Yuan Xian wiped the sweat off his forehead. He thought to himself, one day, I'll go on strike. Whoever wants to serve this bastard can do it. Chapter 16. Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. On the first day of filming, the crew was busy preparing for the opening ceremony under the instructions of the assistant director. The ceremony started at 8:00 sharp. By 7 o'clock, the venue was already bustling with activity. CU appeared before 7:00 and sat in his private lounge. As the male lead, he wasn't busy. He was just waiting for the right time to show his face. He seemed lazy and pretentious in front of his agent, but in reality, his image was perfect. He was dedicated and never acted like a big shot. He had already memorized the script and rehearsed it in his head many times. As he played with his phone, he suddenly thought of the flower-rearing live stream that his agent had recommended. CU opened the platform and logged in with his alternate account. He found the live stream and entered at the right time. The host had just started broadcasting for 2 minutes. The first thing he noticed was a pair of perfect hands. They were slender, fair, and smooth. CU didn't think that he was obsessed with hands, but he was still attracted to them. Other than being attracted by the flower-rearing live stream, the rest of the viewers were probably attracted by the host herself. The comments on the bullet screen were very lively. When is Yun Yun going to upload the previous live stream? My heart hurts when I miss the treasure. I set my alarm so that I could watch the live stream immediately. You're not alone. You're not alone. I just want to see when our 7th child will be born. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. CU didn't want to interfere with the live stream, so he turned off the bullet screen and focused on watching the live stream. After watching for a while, his interest was piqued, and he continued watching with interest. Although CU's potted flowers would die, his knowledge and practical ability to grow flowers was not inferior to most professionals. At the very least, CU could see that the host was very professional. It was obvious that he had been taught by a master and wasn't trying to please the crowd. Brother Yu, Sister Ning is here. She wants to say hi to you. CU's assistant, Xiao Gao, said after knocking on the door. CU nodded casually. Just as he was about to leave the live stream, his attention was attracted by the host's words. After a while, Xiao Wanning came in accompanied by her assistant. She took off her sunglasses and said apologetically, Sorry, Brother Yu, I'm late. Xiao Wanning was an artist under Haitang Entertainment. She was the previous Best Actress Award winner and one of the A-list female celebrities. Her status seemed to be on par with CU, but in front of CU, she still had to respectfully address him as brother. CU nodded and replied politely, You're not late. I came early. CU was the most popular person in the production crew, so he had arrived early. Those who were well-informed had also arrived early, except for those who had backings. Xiao Wanning's team rushed over as soon as they received the news. However, she had been filming an advertisement in another location the day before, so she was delayed on the way. Xiao Wanning felt uneasy. This was her first time working with CU, so this collaboration was very important to her. She hoped that she wouldn't leave a bad impression on him. Xiao Wanning saw that CU was focused on his phone as if she didn't exist. She felt even more uneasy. She wanted to say something, but she was worried that she would disturb him and make him even more unhappy. Xiao Wanning thought about her manager's discussion with Siyu. She wanted to see if she could discuss a couple with his team while she was filming. This way, her fame would definitely surpass that of Feng Shui's. However, would a man who had never had any scandal since his debut really agree to create a hype with her? Xiao Wanning suspected that their plan wouldn't work at all. Siyu really forgot about the existence of Xiao Wanning all of a sudden. For him, the streamer was more attractive than anything else when she explained the situation while feeling the temperature of the soil with her hands. Siyu suddenly heard the host say, "Very soon, once I buy a new computer, I'll organize it and upload it." No, I have enough money. You don't have to send me gifts." Siyu opened the bullet screen. The bullet screen was filled with comments asking the host to upload all the previous videos. They all wanted to see them and urged the host to buy the computer as soon as possible. Then, they sent a wave of gifts. Siyu felt that this live broadcast was very interesting and wanted to see what the previous live broadcasts were like. Naturally, he had to start from the beginning. He naturally wouldn't be so intimate with her halfway through. Siyu casually sent a wave of gifts. He wasn't short of money, so he chose the highest gift, 9,999 yuan. He even typed 100 gifts and casually gave out 1,000,000 yuan. This truly showed what it meant to be inhumane to be rich. At this moment, his assistant came to inform him of the opening ceremony. Siyu clicked follow and then exited the live broadcast room. He stood up and was about to walk out when he noticed Xiao Wanning, who was sitting beside him on pins and needles. He was surprised for a moment and secretly thought that women were troublesome. He then smiled in a friendly manner and said, "Teacher Xiao, please." "Brother, you're too polite." Xiao Wanning replied with a smile and felt a little relieved. Siyu didn't seem to be deliberately giving her the cold shoulder. Siyu was busy with work. Naturally, he didn't know that his casual gift had caused a huge uproar. Today was the 11th day of Fu Yun's live broadcast. She had just planted the seeds of all 10 varieties of orchids. At this time, she didn't pay much attention to the data. Her main focus was on these seeds. Different varieties of orchids had different environmental requirements, such as germination temperature, soil nutrient ratio, humidity, and so on. If Fu Yun wanted them to germinate as soon as possible, she had to pay attention to the situation in the container and adjust the temperature and humidity at all times. It was no wonder that Uncle Gua told her to only focus on the work in the small greenhouse. She really didn't have the energy to do anything else. At this time, only the first, second, and fourth seeds had sprouted. They revealed fresh green, white, and tender sprouts. The little green sprouts poked their heads out of the soil shyly or energetically. It was especially pleasing. As usual, today was a very normal live broadcast. Occasionally, she would answer questions on the bullet screen. Fu Yun thought that it was already very impressive for her to receive a bouquet of flowers every day. She never expected that she would suddenly be rewarded by a nouveau riche. The surprise came unexpectedly. Fu Yun was dumbfounded when she saw a sea of flowers appear immediately after the screen disappeared. What was going on? The platform's reward model was very user-friendly. There were many ways to present gifts for people to choose from, based on the price. For example, the house model. For example, 1 yuan was a warehouse, 5 yuan was a small single room, 9,999 yuan was a skyscraper. For example, the food model. 1 yuan was a steamed bun, 5 yuan was a steamed bun, 9,999 yuan was a Manchu Han imperial feast. If Fu Yun chose the flower model, 1 yuan was a flower, 5 yuan was a bouquet, 9,999 yuan was a sea of flowers. And if a nouveau riche tipped 9,999 yuan, a sea of flowers, a table of Manchu Han imperial feast, and a skyscraper would appear on the screen. Other than that, the host's live broadcast room would appear on the homepage. Every time the effect disappeared, the live broadcast room would rain red packets, and the audience could snatch red packets. Due to the unending rain of red envelopes, her live stream room was flooded with visitors in an instant. Her popularity numbers instantly shot up from 5,000 to 10,000, to 20,000, to 30,000. And this big boss seemed to have activated some strange mechanism. A few fans also tipped 1 or 2 seas of flowers, and even more fans tipped 1 or 2 bouquets of flowers. So there were so many rich people in her live broadcast room? Other than thanking them, Fu Yun repeatedly asked them not to spend money and not to send any more gifts. She was afraid of them. It's okay. It's just money for a meal. Just take good care of my sixth brother. You big bosses, you've scared Yun Yun 2333. I don't care about anything else. I just want my second brother to debut in the center position among a group of brothers. Until the broadcast ended, Fu Yun was still in a daze. She suspected that she was dreaming. This was a beautiful thing that she dared to imagine in her dreams. However, she looked at her popularity. Originally, it was only about 10,000 followers, but it had already risen to more than 89,000. The number was still rising. Because of this wave of rewards, she jumped to become the new star of the day on the homepage and was ranked first on the popularity list. When she checked her income from the gifts, her hands were trembling. Calm down, Fu Yun Ruo. You've seen the world. It's just a small amount of money. Don't be like a country bumpkin. Calm down. Fu Yun Ruo took a deep breath and counted the numbers a few times. She silently calculated, adding up the gifts, big and small, and excluding the portion that was given to the platform. She had actually received close to 400,000 yuan today. She was a little dizzy, but when she thought of how most of the rewards had been given to the platform, Fu Yun Ruo instantly had difficulty breathing. Her heart hurt so much. Chi-Wan, who was fighting a battle of wits and courage with the puzzle 9 rings, heard the commotion and instantly turned her head to look. Fu Yun Ruo walked out of the small greenhouse with a dazed look on her face and a depressed expression. Chi-Wan instantly put down her little toy and crawled over while babbling. What was going on? Could it be that there were haters who came to the live broadcast room to make trouble? Were they attacked by those slanderous words? Fu Yun Ruo hugged Xiao Xiao's soft body and did not say anything for a moment. Chi-Wan took the initiative to go over and touched her face softly with her little hand. He comforted her in all seriousness. There were many haters on the internet who wanted to find a sense of existence in the virtual world because they were unhappy with their lives. There was no need to care at all. In the past, he had encountered many of them. Even if he was scolded like a sieve, he would still be calm and even treat it as a joke. From another perspective, being scolded by others meant that you were going to be popular. This was a good thing. It's okay. I'll remember all the people who are scolding you now. When I grow up and know how to speak, I'll help you scold them back. Chi-Wan babbled for a long time. Her little mouth was dry from all the talking. Fu Yun Ruo then raised her hand and fiercely bit her own wrist. Hiss. It was so painful. Chi-Wan saw her silly and worried look. Could it be that she had been attacked until she became a fool? It was real. She was not dreaming. Fu Yun Ruo said with a dreamy look, "Son, I'm going to be popular. We've made a lot of money." She had become rich in an hour. She did not have to worry about money anymore. Fu Yun Ruo was full of pride. In the future, drink milk powder as much as you want. Buy toys as much as you want. Choose clothes as much as you want. She did not have to worry about her and her son's livelihood anymore. They were being kept by a nouveau riche. Haha. I've made almost 400,000 yuan today. 400,000 yuan. Chi-Wan. He had been worried for a long time, thinking that there was a problem. It was a good thing that she was popular for 400,000? Chi-Wan was stunned. How many days had this woman been streaming? She suddenly earned so much money. Could it be that she had been cheated? No, Panda Streaming was a legitimate platform. The only explanation was that she had been heavily rewarded by her nouveau riche fans. It was not that he did not have nouveau riche fans. There were many who spent a lot of money for him, but that was after he became famous. He did not expect this woman to be so amazing. She was indeed the woman who gave birth to him. Chi-Wan proudly stuck out his little belly. Fu Yun Ruo finally felt that it was real. She immediately decided that she would buy. She used Uncle Guo's identity card to register for a shopping website. It did not affect her shopping at all. She immediately bought the laptop with good configuration that she had been eyeing for a long time. She also bought a lot of live streaming equipment under the recommendation of the forum's comments. She even bought a professional camera. Then, she bought a lot of small clothes for the baby. There were not as many styles for the baby boy as there were for the baby girl, and they were not as good looking. Fu Yunruo looked at those beautiful little dresses reluctantly. In the end, she could not help but buy a few. Chi-won, who had been watching from the side, it was impossible for him to wear a little dress. It was impossible in this lifetime. He would not wear a little dress even if he was beaten to death. Fu Yunruo also bought a massager for Uncle Gua. Recently, he had been massaging his waist and neck from time to time. His body might be a little tired and could be massaged to relieve his tiredness. She still remembered that Uncle Gua had high blood pressure. She also bought a home pressure tester. There were also Uncle May and Aunt May. Fu Yunruo bought almost everything that she liked. She bought everything that could be interest-free in installments. Those that could not be interest-free were put in the shopping cart first. She only stopped after she had used up all the items that could be spent in advance. She went to look at her own platform again. She became popular all of a sudden. The number of viewers in her live stream broke 90,000, and it might break 100,000 very soon. The sudden exposure brought about a lot of sarcastic remarks in the comments section. They were not as friendly as before. Fu Yunruo tried her best not to pay attention to these. Overall, this was a good thing. Fu Yunruo clicked on the private messages that kept flashing non-stop. This time, the invitation from the platform to sign a contract was much more sincere. On the third day of her live stream, she received a private message. It was a short message from the platform inviting her to sign a contract with the platform. The language was very standard, and it was a very standard short message. Fu Yunruo did not consider signing a contract at that time. She immediately turned off the private message. But this time, she had earned so much in one go. The platform had noticed her again. When she thought of the money that she had to share with the platform, her heart ached. Fu Yunruo hesitated. Before she could make a decision, a WX voice call invitation suddenly popped up on the screen. Fu Yunruo took a closer look. It was a call from Chi Weicheng. When Chi Yunruo saw this name, he immediately became nervous. He hurriedly leaned closer to hear what this man wanted from her. Ever since this man left, he had paid special attention to her for many days. They did not have their backs to him and contacted each other. It seemed that their relationship had not developed yet. Chi Yunruo was still thinking that he might have guessed wrongly. Did this woman not marry this person in the end? Later on, he thought that it might be because he always came up with ways to mess things up when they were together that their relationship did not develop. At first, Chi Yunruo felt a little guilty. Later on, he was secretly happy. In this way, she would not abandon him, right? At most, he would earn more money for her to spend in the future. Fu Yunruo did not know what her son was thinking. She only thought that she heard the music from her phone and was curious. She picked up the call. Chi Weicheng's smiling voice came through. Congratulations. Fu Yunruo immediately thought that Chi Weicheng already knew about her live stream. She felt a little embarrassed. You already know? I was just lucky. The people around her did not know much about her live stream. If Fu Yun did not have a friend of the same age who she could talk to, no matter how happy she was, she could only share it with her son. Now that Chi Weicheng mentioned it, she felt quite shy. Don't belittle yourself. Luck is also a kind of strength. Chi Weicheng paused for a moment and said, My friend called me specifically. Although Fu Yun refused to enter the entertainment industry, Chi Weicheng was very concerned about her. He even specially asked his friends to take care of her if there was anything. Chi Weicheng still felt that it was a pity. He had watched the live broadcast and realized that she was very popular with the audience and was very likable. If someone were to calculate her data, they would find that the proportion of visitors who clicked into her live broadcast room was very high. To be honest, live streams like flower raising in the cloud were rather boring. Only real flower lovers would watch such live streams. They were relatively unpopular and could not be compared to live streams like pet raising in the cloud. However, Fu Yun just had to become a popular celebrity among the unpopular. Perhaps Fu Yun still did not know that among her fans, other than those who were attracted by the flower itself, there were also those who were attracted by the hand control, those who were attracted by the voice, and those who felt comfortable and relaxed listening to her. Most of the fans would also know people who shared the same interests. 1 spread to 10, 10 spread to 100, and the popularity came. Chi Weicheng regretted that he could not get her into the entertainment industry. After all, he needed to work and could not watch live streams often. He did not know about today's live stream at all. It was his friend who called and asked him to persuade her to sign on the platform. After Chi Weicheng greeted Uncle Gua and Wenwan, he went into the main topic. I heard that you don't want to sign the contract? Why? Chi Weicheng said, Panda Livestream has a good reputation in the industry. If it's about the contract, with me around, I can't let you lose out. No. Fuyan found it hard to say. If it's possible, I would like to sign the contract, but she was worried that her information would be found out and then be traced back to her. Chi Weicheng sensed that she seemed to have something that was hard to say. He was considerate and did not ask further. Instead, he said, no matter what, you have to think about it carefully. If you don't sign the contract, the platform will not give you good recommendations. You can only rely on yourself in the future. The platform also had to make a living. The recommendation spots were prioritized for their own platform's contracted live streams. Basically, there would not be any recommendations for non-contracted live streams. They could only rely on themselves to get on the popularity list. But how difficult was this? There would not be rich people who would give gifts of millions every day. Fuyan thought for a moment. Although she had only known Chi Weicheng for a short time, he was a trustworthy friend. She said, I don't want to reveal my personal information. Chi Weicheng said in surprise, the platform keeps the personal information of contracted live streams confidential. It will not be revealed. I don't want to be found out by others. Fu Yun said vaguely. Chi Weicheng understood. Yun Ruo should be hiding from someone. He knew that this girl did not look like a child raised in a remote place. You don't have to worry about this. The platform pays great attention to personal privacy. It will not be found out. Moreover, even if you don't sign the contract, when you convert your income, you have to bind your bank card. Fu Yun's idea was to bind Uncle Gua's bank card and transfer it to his bank card. Uncle Gua would not care about this little bit of money. Moreover, Uncle Gua fully cooperated with her and provided her with the venue and various equipment so that she could successfully live stream. It was Uncle Gua who taught her professional skills. Even if all the money was given to Uncle Gua, she would not complain. There are many live streams on the platform that do not show their faces. If the live stream's identity information is so easy to find out, then those live streams' identities would have been found out long ago. Even if some live stream's identity information was found out in the end, it was not leaked by the platform. It was the live stream who accidentally exposed the information. On the contrary, if you sign the contract with the platform will pay more attention to the protection of your information. If that was the case, then there was nothing wrong with signing the contract. Chi-Wen patted Fu Yun's hand and looked up at her. What was she hesitating for? Sign the contract. Look, baby Wenwen already wants you to sign the contract. Chi Weicheng heard Meng Meng's cute little voice and said with a smile. Fu Yun lowered her head and looked at Wenwen. The balance that was wavering suddenly tilted to one side. She said solemnly, I'll sign it. Okay, if you don't mind, I can help you to negotiate the contract. When the time comes, you can see if you want to sign it or not. Fu Yun did not hesitate and agreed. She did not understand the internal situation. Chi Weicheng was in this circle and he knew more about these things. Then I'll have to trouble you, Brother Chi. It's no trouble. Chi Weicheng said a few more words before hanging up the phone. Fu Yun continued to live a busy life. That night, Chi Weicheng sent her a contract. Fu Yun looked at it carefully. All the conditions were listed very clearly, and there was nothing disadvantageous to her. On the contrary, she would be treated very well. As long as she guaranteed more than 60 hours of live streaming a month, it would be an average of 2 hours a day. This was very easy to achieve. During this period of time, she had been streaming for about 3 hours a day or even more. The contract also thoughtfully listed detailed privacy protection clauses. The contract would be signed for 5 years. This period of time was neither long nor short. It was within her acceptable range. The treatment was also not bad. It was still a 30-70 split. However, she would get 70% and the platform would get 30%. The contract also stipulated how many recommendation spots would be guaranteed in a month. This ratio was something that only very famous streamers could enjoy. Fu Yun was a pure newcomer. Her popularity in the same batch was among the top, but she was not the most outstanding. To be able to sign such a generous contract, Chi Weicheng must have put in a lot of effort. Chi Weiqing even sent her a message. See if there's anything you're not satisfied with. I'll help you talk about it. Fu Yun immediately replied, there's no need. I'll take this. The treatment is very good. I can accept it. If Fu Yun knew that she was taking advantage of this, how could she be greedy? She quickly signed the electronic contract. Contracts were divided into electronic contracts and paper contracts. Both contracts had the same legal effect. Nowadays, contracts were usually signed electronically, unless a paper contract was specifically requested. After officially becoming a signed streamer of the platform, her treatment instantly changed. After changing the recommendation spots once a week, she was pushed to the front page of the newcomers list. Her live streaming popularity and attention increased significantly every day. During this period of time, the things she bought online arrived one after another. On the first day that the computer came back, she immediately learned how to edit videos. After a few days, she finally produced a result. After uploading it to the platform, the response was not bad. Soon, it was forwarded and commented by fans. The camera also arrived. Fu Yun used the camera to take photos of orchid grass. She did not use her phone anymore. She took a photo every morning and night, then coded the date and saved it on the computer. Originally, she did not know what to say on the forum. Now, she self-taught herself and shared the photos every day. She even learned how to Photoshop cute pictures. Indeed, the fans became more enthusiastic. Fu Yun occasionally focused on doing things and forgot that she was streaming. The audience chatted in the comments. It was very lively. Sometimes, she was too serious. Unknowingly, she streamed until 11 o'clock and had to cook before she remembered to turn off the live stream. Now, other than streaming regularly, she did not have to worry about the live stream. The platform assigned a room manager to her. There were also 2 fans who volunteered to be room managers to maintain order in the live stream. As long as there were bad comments, they would immediately be kicked out. They would be restricted from entering, and the comments would be deleted. In any case, there was rarely any negative news in front of her. Fu Yun's live streaming career was in full swing. Occasionally, she would suddenly think of the nouveau riche who could be said to have changed her. However, ever since that day, that person had suddenly tipped 1,000,000 yuan. That person had not appeared in the live stream. It made people suspect that she was the one who had spent the money. Fu Yun thought to herself that if she had the money, she would have been lying down and enjoying it. Why would she bother to stream? However, she had too many things to do every day. Her days were very fulfilling. Occasionally, she would think of this nouveau riche, but she would quickly forget about it. Unknowingly, 2 months had passed. Baby Wanwan was already a 9-month-old baby. Fu Yun's most relaxed and happiest time every day was when she had parent-child activities. Baby, don't be shy. This dress is very comfortable. Fu Yun coaxed from behind. She was holding a set of autumn one-piece pajamas in her hand. Her entire body was fluffy and pink. There were 2 rabbit ears on the top of the pink little hat. There was a fluffy ball behind her butt. She looked playful and cute. It was clearly a female baby's pink bunny pajamas. The 9-month-old baby Wanwan had nimble hands and feet. Her 4 limbs were very fast as she crawled around the bed in circles. Pft, pft. Chiwen thought, what kind of strange dress is this? It's fine if she's wearing a little skirt, but she still wants to wear this? He would not wear it even if he was beaten to death. Chapter 17. Chiwen had been very troubled recently. He felt that he had indulged this woman too much, allowing her to ride on his head and behave atrociously. Look at what she had done wrong recently. Not only did she dress him up in gaudy clothes, but she also made him wear small skirts to take photos. She did not even let go of his sleeping time. He was a handsome, confident, and dignified man who was 185 meters tall. She was not a delicate woman. He should not have indulged this woman. She was used to being insatiable. If it were not for the fact that she had been so busy and tired recently, he would not have been so obedient. Chiwen huffed and puffed as he crawled quickly. However, no matter how he crawled, he was only crawling within the range of a bed. How could he escape from Fu Yun Rua's 5 fingers? Fu Yun Rua easily suppressed Wanwan. She smiled like a wolf grandmother. Wanwan, don't be shy. I know you will definitely like it. Opft. Chi Wen's chubby face turned red. His little chubby hands and feet were flailing around. His little, but could not control itself, and twisted like a caterpillar. He had the ability to act out what it meant to refuse. Baby, are you really not going to wear it? If you wear it, Mommy will love you so much more than yesterday. If you are not willing, then Mommy will only love you a little more than yesterday. Fu Yunruo had a coaxing look on her face as she vividly gestured so much and so little distance. When Wen's baby stopped struggling and revealed a hesitant expression, Fu Yunruo revealed a smile and was about to put it on for him when Wen started to crawl again. He was not going to fall for it. He crawled, he crawled, he crawled, he crawled, he crawled. Why was he still at the same spot? Chiwen moved his limbs for a long time, but he was still at the same spot. He turned his head to look. It turned out that the small clothes on his back had been grabbed. No wonder he could not move. Fu Yunruo could not stop laughing. Her baby was really too funny. Why was he so cute? Chiwen's small body was being pulled over. Seeing that he was about to be harmed, Chiwen panicked and instantly broke through his self-control. No. The word no was clear and sonorous. Fuyin said in surprise, Baby, you can speak? She heard it clearly. The word no was spoken clearly and clearly. That cute little voice was simply too cute. Fu Yun's tone softened a little. Her voice sounded like it had been mixed with sugar. Call me Mommy. Come and learn from Mama. Mama, Mama. She shut her mouth and stopped talking. She tilted her head and squeezed into Fu Yunruo's embrace, arching her small body. Mom, Fu Yun was not discouraged and patiently taught him how to speak. Chiwen did not utter a word. Her entire body was buried in Fu Yunruo's embrace, only revealing her plump little butt. Fu Yun dug Wen out and hugged her. All right. Baby just learned how to talk. If you don't want to talk, then don't talk. Fu Yunruo was very distressed. When other babies just learned how to talk, their babbling was similar to their mother's voice and father's voice. She also often said the word mama, but the baby just did not know how to follow. He was still imitating adults and babbling, but he was not like other babies who were curious to explore a new world and talk nonstop every day. The baby was very quiet. He would only say vague words when he was forced into a corner. This was the first time the baby said such clear words. Sigh, I really want to hear the baby call me Mommy. The baby seemed to feel Fu Yunruo's depressed mood. He quietly raised his head and leaned over to kiss her chin. Then, he continued to bury his face. The soft cotton candy-like kiss landed. Fu Yunruo was instantly elated. She smiled and said, Ayaya, baby's kissing magic is really amazing. Mommy's mood has become better. Then, as if by magic, she raised the pink rabbit pajamas. If baby wears this pajamas, Mommy will be even happier. Chiwen baby was speechless. Don't tell me baby doesn't love Mommy anymore? Fu Yunruo looked aggrieved and was about to cry. Baby, don't you love Mommy anymore? Mommy is so sad. It's happening again. Chiwen Ruo looked like he had nothing to live for. He knew it. He knew it. This woman knew how to do this. Chiwen Ruo gave up struggling and did not move at all. Fu Yunruo changed the baby into a one-piece pajamas with a smile on her face. The chubby little body was wrapped in the warm and fluffy pink rabbit pajamas, only revealing a pair of bright and round eyes. His cheeks were puffy, and the pink color made the baby's skin look even fairer and more delicate. He was so cute that it made people's hearts melt. Ah, baby is so cute. So cute. So cute. Fu Yunruo could not help but take a few photos with her phone. As soon as he faced the camera, Chiwen Ruo subconsciously put on his best pose, showing the side that he thought was handsome but was actually cute. After Chiwen Ruo finished posing, he closed himself off again. It was a habit that he had developed in his previous life. Once he faced the camera, he would subconsciously show his best side. He wore such childish clothes and actually cooperated with the camera. He added another stroke to his dark history. Fu Yunruo did not know her son's conflicted state of mind. She looked at the photos on her phone that could be used as a model without any editing. She thought to herself, what kind of peerless cuteness is this? Ah, the cutest and most handsome baby in the world was born by her. She was really too great. After playing for a long time, Fu Yunruo saw that it was already past 10 o'clock and quickly coaxed the baby to sleep. In less than 2 minutes, she coaxed the baby to sleep. Fu Yunruo picked out 9 photos with great difficulty and put a cute emoji pack on the appearance. She placed the emoji on the forum and wrote, "My family's peerless cuteness." Fu Yunruo did not deliberately hide the fact that she had a child. Her fans also knew about it. She was not an idol or a celebrity, and she did not rely on her looks to make a living. The fans could accept that she had a son. They even liked her sharing the baby. Then, they all thought that this was their family's Xiao Yi, who was also their youngest. Sure enough, as soon as she posted the photos, many comments immediately appeared. Sixth brother's mama fan. Even if I can't see the youngest's appearance, I can feel a strong sense of cuteness from the screen. Youngest sister fan. Yun Ruo is talking nonsense. This is clearly my little cutie. Have you watered the flowers today? Ah, as expected of our family's Laowi. Imagine that white and tender skin, those big black eyes, that small and delicate nose, that pink and pouty mouth. Ah, I'm so adorable that I need a kiss from Laowi to get up. Fu Yunruo was overjoyed and proud. Her baby was so popular. Ah, the baby would be a great best actor in the future. Sure enough, even if he was still a baby, he was very popular. After showing off her baby and reading the comments for a long time, Fu Yunruo finally hugged Wenwen baby and fell asleep in satisfaction. The next day, Fu Yunruo was woken up by the vibration of the alarm clock. She lay in bed and hugged the small warm stove, not wanting to get up. However, she had to go to work and could not laze in bed. Fu Yunruo got out of bed and changed her clothes. She turned back and tucked in the corner of the blanket. After making sure that her son was still sleeping soundly, she walked out of the room quietly. As soon as she walked out of the room, the cold wind blew on her face. She instantly shivered. In early winter, most of the cities in the north had already snowed heavily, but the cities in the south were still sunny. However, Fu Yunruo was in a remote mountainous area, and the terrain was higher. It would frost in the morning and evening, and the coldness seemed to seep into her bones. Only when there was a warm sun in the afternoon would there be some warmth. Fu Yunruo woke up every morning and stood in the courtyard for a while. Her hands and feet were as cold as popsicles and could not warm up for a long time. After she finished washing up, she filled a basin with hot water and brought a cute little towel, a small washing cup, and a small toothbrush into the house. The weather had turned cold. Fu Yunruo was not the only one who wanted to stay in the warm bed and not get up. Fu Yunruo carried Wenwen baby, who was still in a daze, and gently coaxed him to finish brushing his little baby teeth. She washed him with hot water and wiped his face with a warm towel. Then, she changed into thick clothes and put on a small vest. Finally, she applied the fragrant baby cream. A fragrant round ball was freshly baked. Chiwen moved his hands and feet with difficulty. He was already full of milk fat. After putting on a few thick clothes, it was even more inconvenient for him to move. He felt that he did not need to wear so many clothes, but there was a saying that made your mother feel cold. Chiwen could only be wrapped into a ball and carried behind Fu Yunruo with a strap. Then, he was tightly wrapped in a cloak and taken away. Riding on a donkey early in the morning, the air was cold. However, Fu Yunruo did not feel very cold at this moment. The small heater on her back was constantly transferring her body heat, and her body was starting to warm up. Fu Yunruo arrived at the flower garden and entered the flower shed before putting Wenwen down. The indoor temperature of the flower shed was controlled to a constant range, but the ground was still cold. The area where Wenwen was playing had already been covered with a thick and soft blanket. It was warm and not cold to sit on it. Fu Yunruo opened the live broadcast room skillfully and greeted the audience. When she saw the audience sending bullet screen comments saying that it was sad that she had to get up early in the morning to rush to the subway on such a cold day, she comforted them. Fu Yunruo felt the same way. She felt that it was also very sad for her to drive the donkey for more than 20 minutes every day. In such weather, it was difficult to persevere without a certain level of perseverance. Especially when it rained. It was wet and cold. Fu Yunruo was already considering whether or not she should stay here. However, she could not bear to leave the environment of the old house. She lived in the village and had a good relationship with the neighbors. She also had Uncle May and Aunt May to take care of her from time to time. If there was anything, she just had to shout and someone would come over to help. However, she lived here, which was a little far from the village. As she stayed in the flower shed all day long, she was not familiar with the people outside the village. This place was also a little remote. But on the other hand, it was more convenient for her to live here. She did not have to go to work every day in the wind and rain. In the future, she could also do a live broadcast at night. The baby was still so young. She was worried that he would not be able to take it in the long run. Fuyin Ruo thought for a moment and decided to spend most of the winter here. When the weather was hot, she would return to the old house. The old house was still rented. When the time came, she would live on both sides. However, she had to ask for Uncle Guo's opinion first. Although she had given a room here, it was only used for lunch break. If she brought her son over to live, it would be more troublesome. Fuyin Ruo thought of a lot of things in her heart, but in reality, it did not take long. The work in her hands was not delayed at all. She casually glanced at the screen and saw someone spamming flowers and bouquets of flowers. She thanked them seriously. There were not many rich people who spent a lot of money, and there were even fewer people like that digital user who spent a lot of money. Although her popularity had been rising, the number of followers was close to 900,000, and the average number of people who watched her live broadcast every day was 300,000. Only a very small number of these people would send her gifts every day or occasionally. Only one audience member would send her a sea of flowers every 5 or 6 days. However, now that her average daily income was tens of thousands, Fuyin Ruo was already very satisfied. Viewers like the previous one who spent millions could only be found by chance. As expected, people could not stand being nagged. Speak of the devil. Her live broadcast room was instantly flooded with a glittering message. Your leaderboard master 998-353-5444 has entered the live broadcast room. Chapter 18. The script that CU had accepted was a film script. In order to achieve the best results, the crew had gone to a remote location to film. The internet signal was intermittent. In order to rush for the Chinese New Year, the filming schedule was tight. Everyone's scenes were compressed again and again. As the male lead with the most scenes, no matter how good his acting skills were, CU felt that it was too much for him. Just because he could pass in one take didn't mean that his co-stars could pass in one take. Usually, he had to bring them into the scene. The director was very picky. Even though the crew was in a rush, they had to ensure that every scene was perfect. Fortunately, the filming was finally completed. The night he returned home, CU slept hard. He was fully energized the next day. After working out in the gym, he went to the bathroom to take a shower. He wore loose pajamas that faintly revealed his Apollo's belt. With a towel draped over his head, he walked out of the bathroom while drying his wet hair. After drying his hair until it was no longer dripping, he casually threw the towel aside and lazily sank into the soft sofa. His short black hair was messy, and a few strands fell on his full forehead. His slender fingers picked up a low-key and luxurious black phone. As he unlocked the screen, he leaned back and stretched his body. It was time to take care of flowers again. He instinctively wanted to poke his manager to hurry up and send a pot over. Then, he remembered the live broadcast he had watched the other day. His fingers swiped over the chat app icon and clicked on the live broadcast platform. At this time, the only streamer he followed was in the middle of a live broadcast. CU entered the live broadcast room. He raised his eyebrows when he saw that the popularity was completely different from what he remembered. If he remembered correctly, the first time he had entered the live broadcast room, the streamer had only been a nobody with a few thousand viewers. After a short period of time, there were already 300,000 to 400,000 viewers. Had there been a change while he was away? The colorful bullet screen covered the entire screen. CU clicked his tongue and closed the bullet screen. When he saw the refreshing interface, his eyebrows relaxed. The streamer seemed to have noticed him and specially greeted him. Her voice was clear and pleasant. Thank you, 998-353-5444, for your tip. CU thought about the gift she had casually given the other day and commented, "You're welcome." The host's voice was full of sincerity. "I still have to thank you. You've helped me a lot, and I'm very grateful." I don't know if there's any live broadcast you want to watch, or if there's any orchid you want to watch. You have the right to make one request, and I will do it. As if the bullet screen had said something, the host explained, there won't be any in the future. I don't recommend that everyone give me so many gifts at once. If you can afford it, I'll be very happy if you can occasionally give me a flower or a bouquet of fresh flowers. So you scrolled through the comments section of the live stream and saw a comment from the host. She briefly introduced the 10 types of orchids that she cared for. Thereupon he commented, is there no copper sparrow or gold emperor? CU was the #1 fan in the live stream. She was also the #1 fan in the live stream. Every comment she made had a fluorescent circle that was very eye-catching. Fu Yun saw that the comments section had become even more lively after the digital audience appeared. Everyone was obviously very curious about this mysterious tycoon who had suddenly tipped $1,000,000 and then disappeared. Are tycoons so down to earth? 666 Fu Yun smiled and replied, no, if you want to raise it, I can raise it. As one of the easiest types of orchids to raise, the Golden Emperor could not stand out in the voting. The orchids that Fu Yun planted were the ones that were more difficult to raise and were more valuable. Fu Yun was very surprised that the digital audience had mentioned such an ordinary type of orchid. She had thought that he wanted to see her raise the ghost orchid. The ghost orchid was one of the rarest types of orchids in the world. It was forbidden to harvest wild orchids and was very rare in the world. It was very difficult to cultivate it artificially. Even Uncle Gua, who had been immersed in the art of orchids for 40 to 50 years, could not cultivate a ghost orchid. It was a rare treasure that could only be found by chance. If it was the Golden Emperor, she could completely take care of it. There are some seeds of the Golden Emperor in the flower shed. I'll find them now. The Golden Emperor did not need to be taken care of too much. It could be seen everywhere in the flower bed. She had just planted a batch of them, and it was just right to transplant them into the flower pot. Fu Yun carefully dug out the seeds that were showing signs of germination and planted them in the flower pot alone. Okay, this is our family's little 12. As soon as Fu Yun finished speaking, the comments exploded. No, I don't accept it. No one can shake Zai Zai's position as the old young master. So what if he's rich? I only accept him as little 11. He can't be the old young master. Yes, the old young master can only be Zai Zai. Fu Yun could not help but laugh. Why were the fans so cute? She comforted them. Okay. Bao Bao is the old young master. This is our new member, 11. Fu Yun thought that the fans were already used to calling Bao Bao old young master. If there was another orchid behind, it would not be old young master anymore. She simply agreed to the fans' request and changed the position. In the future, her Bao Bao would be little 12. Only then did the fans become obedient. Siyu was also very satisfied. He did not care about these so-called rankings. It was fine as long as the broadcaster could raise the orchids he wanted to see. Then, he casually sent a few gifts and left a message. Raise it well? When Fu Yun saw the sea of flowers appear on the screen, her heart instantly jumped. She hurriedly said, don't send gifts. You have already sent a lot previously. I will take good care of the flowers. Big Boss has scared Yun Yun. 233333. The screen was filled with good-natured laughter. Fu Yun repeated it twice. When she saw that there was no more sea of flowers on the screen, her heart slowly relaxed. Although it felt good to become rich overnight, Fu Yun preferred a steady stream. She was not short of money now. She would not change her ways to ask her fans for gifts. She would also stop them when she saw that they had sent too many. Fu Yun felt that she was the broadcaster that the platform disliked the most. However, the platform had not interfered with her before, so she did as she wished. It was best if she was happy doing it. When the time for the live broadcast was up, Fu Yun bade farewell to her fans and audience and turned off the live broadcast. When she went out to help Uncle Gua, she also mentioned that she wanted to move here. Uncle Gua was very displeased with this. If you want to stay, then stay. Why are you asking me? He had long wanted the mother and son to stay here. There were rooms and everything. Every day, he could not bear to see this orphan and widow go through the wind and rain. However, he also knew that this place was not as convenient as living in the village, so he did not say anything. If Fu Yun took the initiative to mention it, Uncle Gua would have something to say. Fu Yun smiled. Okay, then I'll go back and pack up tonight. I'll move here starting tomorrow. She thought that Uncle Gua was quite lonely here alone. It was good for her and her son to stay here. They could take care of each other. After 5 o'clock, Fu Yun brought her son back to the village. After the weather turned cold, Fu Yun went back early every day. After autumn, the nights slowly became longer and the days shorter. Basically, the sky would turn dark after 5 o'clock. It would be completely dark before 6 o'clock. It was not safe to drive back in the dark. Fu Yun went back at 5 o'clock every day. However, because she had to do a live broadcast, she still woke up at the same time in the morning. She carried her son and specially went to look for Aunt May. She told Aunt May about this matter and asked her to help take care of the old house occasionally. She would continue to rent it and come back to stay often. Aunt May was very supportive of Fu Yun's decision. It was not a good idea to bring such a small child back and forth every day. The weather would get colder later. Not to mention children, even adults would not be able to stand it. Even if Fu Yun did not mention it tonight, she would still look for her to talk about this matter. Aunt May promised, "You can stay there with peace of mind. I'll be here." "Sorry to trouble you, Aunt May." After chatting with Aunt May for more than an hour and listening to her talk about some trivial matters in the village, Fu Yun brought her son home and prepared to pack up. There were not many things that she had to pack, mainly her winter clothes. The flower bed was their second place of residence. There were many things that belonged to the mother and son. At the very least, there were daily necessities such as toothbrushes and towels, especially baby Wen. He spent more time in the flower bed every day. His personal belongings there were more complete than here. In the end, Fu Yun only packed a luggage bag. She thought that she would buy whatever she lacked in the future. The next day, Fu Yun came to the flower bed and put her luggage in the room. She went to the flower shed and started the live broadcast on time. Not long after the live broadcast, Fu Yun saw the number of viewers from yesterday again. Fu Yun thought to herself. At that time, she thought that this was just a big shot who did not enter the live broadcast room and left after casually tipping $1,000,000. Now that he had appeared for 2 consecutive days, perhaps this big shot really liked orchids. He had disappeared for so many days previously because he was delayed by other things and did not have time to watch the live broadcast. Fu Yun's thoughts flashed through her mind. She focused on taking care of her 11 brothers and sisters. Then, she chose a good angle to take photos of them one by one. Fu Yun suddenly realized that her 3rd and 5th children had finally appeared. She looked at the faint buds on the soil and could not help but smile. Then, the forum posted a picture. 3rd and 5th children have finally appeared. Those fans who thought that they were the mother, father, brother, and sister fans of 3rd and 5th children were the most excited. The comment section was very lively. Fu Yun picked a few comments to reply to, then continued to take care of the flower bed. From time to time, she would check on baby Wen. Chi-Wen quietly stayed in the circled area. He was focusing on the 9 consecutive rings. Fu Yun bought a difficulty level S 9 consecutive rings online. He had not succeeded in solving it for many days. Chi-Wen thought to himself, it was just a 9 consecutive rings. How could he not be able to solve it? He had even pieced together a 6-sided Rubik's Cube, let alone this small thing. He had to solve it today. Otherwise, that woman would definitely laugh at him. He would definitely not give that woman a chance to laugh at him. Chi-Wen struggled for a long time and finally solved the 9 consecutive rings. He stood up steadily with the help of the wooden fence and shouted in the woman's direction. Look! He solved the 9 consecutive rings. Fu Yun, who was observing the potted orchid, turned around when she heard the sound. She saw Wen standing up with the help of the wooden fence and looking up at her with sparkling eyes. When Fu Yun looked over, Wen shouted again in a loud and clear voice. He let go of the hand that was supporting him and waved his little chubby paws at her. His short and chubby body lost its balance and swayed twice. Then, he squatted on the ground. Then, he looked at Fu Yun blankly, as if he did not understand why he suddenly collapsed. Fu Yun immediately felt that he was so cute. She quickly walked over and squatted down. She said gently, "Baby, what do you want to show Mommy?" When Wen heard Fu Yun's voice, he immediately raised his little hand at her again. His eyes were sparkling. Fu Yun looked at his little chubby hand. He was holding 9 consecutive rings that had been solved. She exclaimed exaggeratedly, Ayaya. When actually solved the 9 consecutive rings. He's really amazing. Baby is really the smartest baby that mommy has ever seen. Chi-Wen subconsciously puffed up his little belly with a proud expression. He was really amazing. It was just 9 consecutive rings. He solved it so easily. He had a reserved look on his face as he enjoyed the woman's fancy compliments. Fu Yun could not help but carry Wenwen up and give him a small kiss. Why was the baby so cute? Chi-Wen placed his little chubby hand on her face, meaning to reject her. He thought helplessly that this woman was really too clingy. Fu Yun and baby Wenwen officially lived in the garden. After a few days, they felt how convenient it was to live here. In the morning, they did not have to wake up more than an hour earlier. They did not have to rush back and forth in the cold wind. Moreover, she could do more things at night. After eating, Uncle Gua would help to take care of the children. She could make videos and even occasionally take an hour to do a live broadcast. Moreover, she did not reduce the time she spent with Wenwen. It was just that this place was too quiet. Other than Uncle Gua, no other neighbors came to chat with her occasionally. However, there was no other way. There were gains and losses. Today's weather was very good. There was a period of warm sunlight in the afternoon. Fu Yun saw that the temperature was so good. She took out the bed sheets and blankets to dry and took the children to bask in the sun. Fu Yun carried Wenwen and lay on the recliner. There was a blanket on it, and their bodies were warm from the sun. Their eyes were squinted lazily, and their similar faces had the same expression of enjoyment. Uncle Gua suddenly came out of the small bungalow. He did not look too good. Fu Yun suddenly woke up and sat up. Uncle Gua? When Uncle Gua saw the mother and son, his gaze softened. He glanced at Wenwen, who looked sleepy as if he would fall asleep at any time, and his voice was a little lower. I'm going to the Gua family for a while. I'll be back tonight. You don't have to make me dinner. Okay. Fu Yun did not know what happened, but she did not ask further. Uncle Gua said a few words and left quickly. Fu Yun's sleepiness was completely gone. She gently patted Wenwen's small body and coaxed him to sleep. When the child fell asleep, Fu Yun carried the child back to the house, put him under the blanket, and lay down. Looking at Wenwen's sleeping face, she leaned over and kissed him gently. The sleepiness that had just been driven away came back again. She closed her eyes and quickly fell asleep. The mother and son had a good afternoon nap. After waking up energized, they washed up and went to the flower shed. Uncle Gua was not around, so she had more things to do. Fortunately, Wenwen was very obedient. As long as she was within range, he would not make a fuss. Wenwen sat on a thick, furry blanket, surrounded by a pile of toys. He was not interested in these toys. He climbed to the side and stood up again with the help of the wooden railing. His small body was still very short. When he stood up, he was not even as tall as the wooden railing. He held the wooden railing and walked a few steps shakily. After Chi-Wen could stand up, he began to slowly learn to walk. In his memory, walking was a very simple matter. Logically speaking, he should be able to walk as soon as he walked. However, in fact, if he did not hold on to something, he would soon lose his balance and fall. A child's bones had not completely grown, and his balance was not strong enough. He could not control himself at all. He did not like to sit on a baby walker to learn to walk. Every day, he would learn to walk by himself. At night, he would be led by a woman in bed to learn to walk. He would be praised for every step he took. After walking for a while, Chi-Wen was covered in sweat. He felt very hot and wanted to take off his clothes. He secretly glanced in the woman's direction. Seeing that she was not paying attention to him, he sat down and pulled his clothes up with great effort. A cool wind blew into his stomach, taking away the sticky heat. Phew! It was much more comfortable. Fu Yunrua observed an orchid for a while and found that the orchid's nutrition was a little unbalanced. It took her half a day to change the soil. After confirming that there was no problem, she went to see Wenwen. She did not know what he was playing at the moment. Fu Yunrua thought about buying some intellectual toys for the baby. He liked to play with these more. Fu Yunrua walked over and found Wenwen lying on the blanket, seemingly asleep. No wonder she did not hear any movement. He was really a little sleeping pig. She softened her brows and walked over softly, preparing to carry him. Although the temperature in the flower shed was higher than outside, it was winter after all. The later it was, the colder it would be. As soon as her hand touched him, she felt that something was wrong. She carried the baby over. His face was red and sweating, and his forehead was so hot that it was scalding. The baby's breathing was very heavy, and the air he exhaled was hot. When one had a fever, Fu Yunruo's face was full of anxiety. She hurriedly wrapped Wenwen up and carried the child out. When she was about to reach the door, she remembered that she did not take her wallet, so she hurriedly ran into the room, took her wallet, and ran out in a panic. Fortunately, there was a health station not far from the flower bed. She hurriedly ran over and said anxiously, "Sister, can you help me take a look at the baby? He's sick." The doctor at the health station was a woman in her early 50s. At this time, there were still 2 or 3 patients at the health station. Everyone saw a young woman carrying a sick child in a panic, so they did not mind her cutting the queue. An auntie hurriedly said, "We can't neglect a child who is sick. Iyun, take a look at the child first." Dr. Iyun hurriedly let Fu Yunruo sit on the bench inside. She stuffed a heat probe under the child's armpit and then placed the stethoscope on his chest. Wenwen seemed to be very uncomfortable. His little mouth mumbled a few words, but he did not wake up. Fu Yunruo's heart was in pain. She tried to stay calm and asked, "Sister, how's the child? Is he okay?" Dr. Iyun estimated the time and took out the heat probe. 38.5 degrees. The child has a fever. Dr. Iyun's expression was grave. Fortunately, there was no noise in the chest. However, this illness was very aggressive. If she was not careful, it could turn into pneumonia. She still had to be careful. Then what should we do? How do we reduce the fever? Wenwen's cheeks were abnormally red. His breathing was very heavy, and it seemed that the situation was very serious. Fu Yunruo was anxious. Wenwen has never had such a serious illness since he was born. He only had signs of sneezing when the season changed. But he will be fine after drinking some baby powder. I'll put a fever patch on the child and prescribe some medicine. If the temperature can be lowered, there will be no problem. Dr. Iyun put a fever patch on Wan Wen's forehead. Then, she quickly prescribed some medicine for the child and gave 3 fever patches. If he still has a fever at night, put another fever patch on the child. Take the medicine according to what I wrote. Don't take too much. Fu Yunruo nodded again and again. Dr. Iyun looked at the young mother who was at a loss. She knew that this young mother was inexperienced and felt uneasy. She sighed in her heart and said gently, "If you are really worried, you can go to the hospital in town." There was a specialized pediatrics department in the hospital. It was much more professional than her small clinic. Yes. Thank you, sister." Fu Yunruo was very grateful. She paid the money and took the prescribed medicine. She had never been to this clinic before and was not familiar with this doctor. When she left the health station, she felt even more uneasy. She wished that she could continue to stay in the health station. She could only feel at ease if there was someone who knew medicine by her side. She saw a fully enclosed tricycle parked by the roadside outside the health station. The driver stepped on the accelerator and was about to leave. She quickly went forward and shouted, "Uncle, wait." A middle-aged man with a simple and honest face looked over. "Sister Yun, is the child sick?" The middle-aged man was from the village outside the flower garden. He had met Yunruo and her son a few times. Fu Yunruo nodded. "Uncle, are you going to town?" The middle-aged man nodded. "Are you going to the hospital? Hurry up and get in the car." He actually did not want to go to town. After all, it was already a little late. However, seeing that this child was pitiful, he sent her this trip. "Thank you, uncle." Fu Yunruo got into the car. The tricycle sent Fu Yunruo and her son to the entrance of the town hospital. Fu Yunruo thanked him again and then carried the child into the hospital. She really could not feel at ease. It was better to go to the hospital to be at ease. Fu Yunruo queued up to see the pediatrician. He also diagnosed that there was nothing serious. She also saw the medicine prescribed by the health station and said that it was fine to take the medicine according to this. She was really worried. She stayed in the hospital for a while and waited for the child's temperature to drop before leaving. Fu Yunruo naturally chose to stay in the hospital first. The nurse brought her to a ward and asked when one to stay here. If there were any abnormalities, they could look for the doctor. Fu Yunrua sat by the bed and looked at her son, who had his eyes tightly shut and a fever patch on his forehead. Her tears suddenly fell. She was too careless. She knew that the baby was so young and could not be separated from someone, but she still relied on him to be obedient and often ignored him. If she had paid more attention, the baby would not have fallen sick. It was all her fault. Chiwen slept very uneasily. He dreamed that he was being roasted in a stove. When he finally struggled to wake up, he saw a plain white. His body felt uncomfortable. His head was dizzy and his whole body was very tired. Chiwen immediately noticed the woman who was silently crying by the bed. "Ah," he said. His voice was not as soft and cute as before. It was a little hoarse. "Baby, you're awake." Fu Yunrua hurriedly carried one up. "Are you feeling uncomfortable anywhere?" "I'm sorry, baby. Mommy didn't take good care of you." Chiwen reached out and placed his hand on her cold face. His hand was wet with tears. He wiped her tears and said, "Pfft, not out. Don't cry. It's not your fault. It's his own fault." He felt hot and secretly took off his clothes. When he felt uncomfortable, he did not say anything. He thought that he would be fine after sleeping. Chiwen did not expect that his considerate comfort would make her cry even harder. He was stunned. Was this woman made of water? The room was about to be flooded. Chiwen couldn't even wipe away her tears. Fu Yunrua cried. The baby was too obedient. He was so obedient that it made her heart ache even more. She could not help but cry. As she cried, she also wanted to see if the baby's fever had subsided. She was not sure if she could tell, so she hurriedly pressed the bell. Not long after, the doctor arrived. She checked that when Win's fever had subsided. There was no problem. She gave them a few instructions and let them leave. Fu Yunrua thanked her profusely. She carried her son, who was tightly wrapped up, and left the hospital. It was already 9:30 p.m. after a round of torment in the hospital. The hospital was not far from the market in town. There was a road that was more than 800 meters long that led to the center of the street. The road was quiet. The street lamps were quite far away, and a few of them were dim. They must have been broken and had not been repaired yet, making the road look dim. The places where the street lamps could not shine were even darker. There was not a single pedestrian on the road. Fu Yunrua walked in a hurry. As she walked, she was a little scared. She was afraid that a monster would suddenly jump out from those dark places. It was not easy to walk to the street, but she did not expect to see a single passerby. Fu Yunrua had never been to town at night. She did not expect that it was not even 10 p.m., but all the shops were closed. The doors were tightly shut, and there was not a single pedestrian on the street. Even the residential buildings above the shops had basically turned off their lights. Most of the people in town and the village were elderly and children. There were not many young people. In addition, the weather was cold now, so people were more willing to curl up in comfortable and warm beds early. They would not go out if there was nothing to do. At night in town, other than during the New Year, most of the young people would only see supper stalls and pedestrians when they returned. It was not like in a big city. Even if it was 2 or 3 in the morning, one could still see cars and pedestrians, and one could call for a taxi. Fu Yunrua was flustered by her son's sudden illness, so she did not consider these at all. She walked for a long time, and only her own footsteps echoed. A gust of cold wind blew past, lifting the plastic bags and white paper towels on the street. She was the only one on the long street. The pale street lamps pulled her shadow extremely long. Fu Yunrua shivered. She stopped in her tracks and thought that there should be no one at the place where the tricycle usually parked on the street to pick up passengers, right? Without a car, she could not go back. The distance between the town and the village was not short. There was still a long road that was rugged and winding. There were no residential houses on either side, only empty fields. It was fine during the day. Fu Yunrua had never thought that she would be afraid, but at this moment, when she imagined herself taking such a road at night with such a young son, her heart trembled with fear. Why not stay in the hospital for a night and take the car back during the day? Fu Yunrua turned around and walked hurriedly towards the hospital. After walking for a while, she suddenly thought of something. Was there a hotel in town? Fu Yunrua broke out in cold sweat. After thinking for a long time, she remembered that there was a small hotel at the end of the street. That place was closer. It was better to stay in the hotel. Usually, when she went shopping, she did not feel that the road was far. It was as if she could walk to the end in an instant. At this moment, she kept walking, but it seemed that she could not reach her destination. She did not know if it was because of the environment, but Fu Yunrua's nerves became more and more tense. Her heart beat faster and faster, as if it was about to jump out of her chest. In a flash, Fu Yunrua suddenly remembered that the original body fell into the water on the second year after she was chased out of the house. The specific day was not specified in detail, but the time frame was within this period of time. In other words, any day during this period of time could be the note of her death. Fu Yunrua muttered to herself, after hiding for 2 years, I still can't avoid the inevitable ending of death? The power of the plot was so great. Even if she did not fall into the water and die, would she encounter other accidents? Chapter 19. Chiwon was tightly wrapped up and hugged. He could not feel the cold temperature outside. He stuck close to Fu Yunrua's soft body and listened to her heartbeat, which made him feel at ease. He felt sleepy and wanted to sleep. She had lost some of her vitality after falling sick this time. But not long after, Chiwon could clearly feel her body tensing up. Not long after, her heartbeat became faster and faster, as if she was afraid. Chiwon suddenly became alert and wanted to look outside, but he was hugged tightly. He was worried that he would hurt her if he struggled too much. So he listened to the movements outside. It was very quiet outside. Chiwon thought to himself, this woman couldn't be afraid of the dark, right? She was really timid. She was actually afraid with him around. But he looked at his own small arms and legs. All right, he did not have any masculinity now, but he would grow up soon. Suddenly, he heard the woman muttering to herself, after hiding for 2 years, I still can't avoid the inevitable outcome of death. At that time, his mind was blank. This sentence repeated in his mind several times before he understood the meaning of this sentence. Chiwon felt as if he was struck by lightning. His entire body was stunned. Death. His body started to turn cold and tremble. This word made him afraid, terrified. He wanted to shout and scream, but it was as if his throat was being choked. His mouth moved silently, as if he was shouting, but he could not make a sound. After an unknown amount of time, it seemed like an instant, a short and sharp cry sounded. The next moment, a loud cry pierced through the darkness. Wah, 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 ah, 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 ah. The sudden cry of a baby broke the eerie silence, and also pulled Fu Yunrua back from her endless fear. At the same time, the residential buildings on both sides of the street lit up. Oh my God! Whose child is crying? Who brought their child out to disturb others in the middle of the night? Sorry. Fu Yunrua did not care if they heard it or not, and apologized again and again. Hearing someone's voice, the fear in her heart slowly dissipated. Her cold and numb body also regained consciousness. Fu Yun hurriedly looked at her son in her arms. Oh, baby, don't cry. Are you feeling unwell? Fu Yun jolted and hugged him, using her forehead to press against his forehead. But her face was exposed, and her surface temperature was very low, and when she touched his forehead, his temperature was very high. If Fu Yun was not sure, was she having a fever again? As Fu Yun coaxed the child, she turned around and ran towards the hospital. However, the cries did not stop at all. Wherever she went, the cries would follow. Fu Yun was filled with anxiety and only wanted to reach the hospital as soon as possible. Yun Yun. Fu Yunrua seemed to hear someone calling her in a daze. She was in a daze for a moment before she recognized the familiar voice. She turned around and saw a tricycle stop beside her. Uncle Gua got off from it. Uncle Gua? How is One? Uncle Gua asked anxiously. Hearing the cries along the way, his expression became even uglier. Why is she crying like this? I don't know either. Seeing the familiar elder, Fu Yun could not help but choke. When one is not feeling well, she wished she could take her place and bear all the pain. Uncle Gua hurriedly said, Get in the car quickly. Let's go to the hospital to have a look. Fu Yun nodded, tears falling down. She did not bother to wipe her tears and hurriedly got into the car. The tricycle rumbled as it drove towards the hospital. Soon, they arrived at the entrance of the hospital. Fu Yun rushed into the hospital with the crying child in her arms. The doctor on duty came over to check on the situation. "Doctor, help me take a look at the child. He keeps crying. Is he having a fever again? Let me take a look." The middle-aged female doctor wanted Fu Yun to put the child down, but the child held onto Fu Yun tightly. The moment he moved, he cried even harder. She could only let Fu Yun carry him. After she checked, she said, "He's having a fever. Is he feeling unwell? He's crying so hard. Is he hungry? I'll go look for milk powder." Fu Yun had already stopped breastfeeding the child, so she could only find some supplementary food or milk powder. It was not easy for her to make milk. Wen vomited after drinking a few mouthfuls. She vomited, drank, and vomited again. Later, she went to the hospital cafeteria to cook porridge before eating a little. The group of adults was tossed and turned. It was not until the second half of the night that Wen stopped crying. It was not that she had cried enough, but that she had cried herself to sleep. Wen's sleep was still very restless. From time to time, she would sob. Fu Yun looked tired and haggard. She said gratefully to Uncle Gua and the middle-aged man beside her, "Uncle, thank you for your help. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have been able to take care of him alone." She could only take care of Wen. Uncle Gua and this uncle were the ones who helped to run up and down the other things. Fu Yun noticed that this uncle who drove the tricycle was the one who sent her and her son to the hospital. His surname was Lin. "It's my duty." Uncle Lin was also tormented, but there was no resentment on his honest face. Uncle Gua said, "You've been tired for a long time. Sleep well for a while. If there's anything, we can talk about it tomorrow." Okay. It was already very late. They stayed in the hospital first. There were not many people hospitalized in the town hospital. Fu Yun and Wen slept in the same room and bed. Uncle Gua and Uncle Lin went to the room next door to rest. Fu Yun did not sleep well. From time to time, she would be awakened. She would reach out to check her son's temperature and breathing. After confirming that there was nothing unusual, she would close her eyes. This cycle continued until dawn. Fu Yun could not leave the baby, so she did not get up. Instead, she watched the baby sleep. Perhaps it was because he was still sick last night, but the baby, who should have woken up, was still sleeping soundly. Not long after, there was a knock on the door. Fu Yun carefully got up to open the door. Uncle Gua stood in front of the door with 2 bags in his hands. "Have some breakfast." "Thank you, Uncle Gua. Have you eaten?" Fu Yun did not have much of an appetite, but she still accepted Uncle Gua's kindness. "Yes." "Is Wen still not awake?" Fu Yun shook her head. "By the way, Uncle Gua, why did you think of looking for me last night?" Uncle Gua frowned. "I didn't hear anything when I came back. Your door was open, and there was no one inside. I couldn't get through to your phone, so I want to ask someone. Only then did I know that you brought the child to town." Fu Yun then remembered the phone in her pocket. She pressed it, but it did not turn on. "My phone is out of battery." Uncle Gua scolded. "You didn't know how to ask for help when such a big thing happened." It was not convenient to travel from the town to the village. It was even more inconvenient and unsafe to travel at night. She did not know how to ask for help. Fu Yun lowered her head and listened to the scolding. She thought of herself yesterday. She really did not care about anything and acted rashly. However, her mind was filled with Wen. She panicked and did not think of how to act properly. "Why did you run around so late last night?" If they had not suddenly heard Wen's cries, they would have directly turned to the hospital and missed her. Fu Yun said embarrassedly, "I thought there was a car and we could hitch a ride back." She did not think of it for a moment. "You can't be so reckless in the future." Yun Ruo was a young and beautiful woman. If she was unlucky and met a strange man in the middle of the night, it would be easy for her to have bad intentions. If something happened, Tian would not be able to help. "Okay." Uncle Gua was about to continue lecturing her when a loud cry suddenly sounded behind him. Fu Yun quickly turned around and walked forward. Wen, Mommy is here." Wen had woken up at some point. At this moment, she was sitting on the bed and crying non-stop with her eyes wide open. As she cried, She looked around as if she was looking for someone. When she saw Fu Yun, she immediately opened her arms and cried while asking for a hug. Fu Yun quickly went over to carry the baby. Baby, don't cry, don't cry. Mommy is here. Mommy loves baby the most. Don't cry, don't cry. Chiwen cried even more sadly. He did not know that the truth was like this. It was harder to accept the truth than the various reasons for abandoning him previously. It was this woman's death that caused him to be reduced to an orphanage and become an orphan. For the first time, he felt that death was such a terrible thing. Chiwen was so sad that he could not control himself. She did not abandon him. She did not abandon him. He would rather this woman marry another man for glory and wealth than for a burden like him. He was also unwilling to believe that she had met with an accident. He would rather that she was living well somewhere in this world. Why was the truth like this? Chiwen hugged Fu Yun tightly and cried heartbreakingly. Fu Yun's tears also came out. She seemed to feel that her son was very upset and was suffering from angina. No matter how she coaxed him, he would not stop crying, just like that night when he suddenly cried in the middle of the night. No, it made her feel even worse than that night. She almost could not breathe. Doctor, come and take a look. The child is crying again. It turned out that Uncle Gua had gone to find the doctor. The doctor could not find the reason for the child's nonstop crying. Because of his emotional fluctuations, his body temperature, which had just subsided, rose again. Chiwen cried and fell asleep again. Fu Yun took the opportunity to feed him some porridge and water. Not long after, she fed him some salt water. Chiwen's eyes were still filled with tears. His little mouth moved unconsciously as he swallowed the food. Moo ma 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 ma. The hoarse little voice suddenly made a similar sound. Fu Yun was stunned. Her tears fell just like that. She lowered her head and kissed him. She replied gently, Mom is here. After Wen's fever subsided, he went for a checkup, but they could not find the reason for his nonstop crying. Aunt May, who heard the news and came to the hospital to visit, slapped her head and said, the child must have been shocked. When Aunt May heard that Fu Yun brought the child out of the hospital in the middle of the night and walked outside alone, she immediately looked at her with disapproval. Children should try not to go out at night. It's easy to be shocked. Fu Yun's face was full of guilt. She thought of when suddenly crying last night. She thought of how she felt that day and still had lingering fears. That day, she seemed to have been possessed. She felt that she was shrouded in a strange space, as if she would encounter an accident in the next second. If Wen had not suddenly cried, she would still be trapped in that inexplicable fear. Fu Yun Ruo couldn't help but think, could it be that there really was something strange? Thinking that she was an unscientific existence, the more Fu Yun thought about it, the more shocked she became. Prosperity, democracy, civilization, harmony, freedom, equality, justice, rule of law, patriotism, professionalism, honesty, and friendliness. Fu Yun silently recited the core values of socialism a few times before she felt that it was not so scary. The child's fever has subsided? Is there a problem? Yes, the doctor said that the temperature has dropped. As long as it doesn't rise, it will be fine. Then hurry back. It's not a good idea to stay here. The child's emotions are unstable. He should stay in a familiar environment to stabilize his emotions. Yes, okay. With the experienced Aunt May around, Fu Yun felt like she had a stabilizing force. She felt that what she said made sense, so she quickly did as she was told. Chapter 20. Fu Yun Ruo brought the child back to the old house. Aunt May and Uncle Gua also followed. Uncle May was also in the courtyard. Obviously, he was also very concerned about Wen. However, Wen was now asleep, so everyone did not communicate much. They lowered their voices and said a few words. Aunt May was busy and even asked Fu Yun Ruo to quickly enter the room. Put Wen on the bed. The little guy was not light. Her hands would be very sore and tired if she carried him all the time. Moreover, it was cold outside and it was not good to be exposed to the wind. Fu Yun Ruo responded and quickly entered the room. She bent down and carefully placed Wen, who had cried himself to sleep, on the bed. As soon as her hand left his body, he did not seem to feel the familiar warmth. His eyes were still tightly shut, and he let out a cry. Fu Yunruo quickly lay down and hugged Wenwen into her arms. She hummed a nursery rhyme and gently comforted him. Wenwen quickly calmed down. He leaned against Fu Yunruo and gripped her clothes tightly with his small hands. Not long after, Aunt May walked in with a bowl of fragrant meat porridge in her hands. She said in a low voice, "This is meat porridge made by the old man. Yunruo, have some." Fu Yunruo did not have much of an appetite, but when she smelled the rich fragrance of meat, her stomach started to growl. She had not eaten anything since last night and was already famished. Okay. Fu Yunruo moved her body slightly and sat up. She caressed Wenwen with her hand first. After making sure that she did not wake him up, she thanked Aunt May softly. "Thank you, Aunt May. Uncle May has also worked hard." Fu Yunruo took the porcelain bowl and stirred it with a porcelain spoon. Then, she scooped it up and put it into her mouth. The temperature of the meat porridge was just right, and it was very fragrant in her mouth. She quickly finished the entire bowl, and a warm feeling spread from her stomach to the outside. Aunt May smiled as she watched her finish eating. She took the empty porcelain bowl and said gently, "Yunruo, sleep with Wenwen for a while. You didn't rest well last night, right? Rest well." Fu Yun had not slept for almost the entire night and was indeed physically and mentally exhausted. She responded softly and watched Aunt May walk out softly. She carefully closed the door before lying down and closing her eyes. She hugged Wenwen and fell asleep. Perhaps it was because she was familiar with the environment, but this time, Fu Yun did not sleep uneasily. She did not wake up, but she did not sleep for long. The first thing she did when she woke up was to see Wenwen in her arms. Wenwen was sleeping soundly this time. If Fu Yun pressed her forehead against Wenwen's small forehead, her body temperature would not be high. When she used her hand to check under her small nose, her breath would not be so hot. Fu Yun calmed herself down. Fortunately, she did not have a fever. She heard some voices outside. It seemed like Aunt May and Uncle May were talking. She felt much better now. She wanted to go out and take a look, but she was worried about Wenwen, so she didn't go out. Not long after, Wenwen half opened his eyes in a daze. His listless eyelids opened and closed. Seeing this, Fu Yun knew that he was about to wake up. She hurriedly carried him and quickly walked out. Wenwen's consciousness was still half asleep. He placed his hands on Fu Yun's shoulders and laid his head on her shoulders. He was drowsy. A moment later, he let out a sob. His instincts made him want to cry uncontrollably. "Wenwen, we're home. Quick, look who's here." Fu Yun gently patted Wenwen's back and spoke softly. The moment Wen opened his eyes, he saw the familiar furnishings. He stopped crying and looked around with his red and swollen eyes. The familiar furnishings made him quiet down for a moment. Fu Yun was about to heave a sigh of relief. Then she saw Wenwen open his mouth and was about to cry in the next second. Wen couldn't control it at all. His consciousness, his body, from the inside out, were enveloped by a huge sadness. He was still a child and couldn't control his emotions like an adult. Even if his heart was full of holes, he could still act as if nothing had happened. "Io, whose sweetheart is this? His little nose and face are as red as a monkey's but from crying?" Aunt May's tone was rhythmic. Uncle May also walked over. "Come, Wenwen, look over here. Grandpa made you a little toy." The handmade wooden horse was lifelike and lifelike. Uncle May said as he spun the wooden horse in his hand. "Look, the wooden horse is running. Run, run, run. Io, it runs so fast." Uncle Gua said, "You old man, how is this fast? You're making a joke out of yourself." "Don't listen to your Grandpa Gua. Our wooden horse is running really fast. Wenwen, Grandma made a little puppy for you. It's so chubby and cute. It can even bark to greet Wenwen. It can say, 'Wenwen baby, how are you? My name is Wong Wong. What's your name?'" Uncle May, Aunt May, and Uncle Gua, the three elderly people, did all kinds of things in order to coax Wenwen. Wen cried and hiccuped. After all, he still had the instincts of a child. Wen was immediately attracted by this exaggerated performance. He couldn't take his eyes off it and even forgot to cry. Fu Yun, who had been carrying Wenwen, saw this and slowly relaxed. He was finally coaxed. Then Fu Yun smiled and joined in the coaxing of the baby. Baby, do you like it? Grandpa and Grandma made it for baby. Grandpa and Grandma are so good to baby. Baby, do you like a little wooden horse or a little puppy? When Wen heard this voice, he turned his head and saw Fu Yun. He was instantly stunned and looked at her without blinking for a long time. Then, his eyes slowly filled with tears. Fu Yun blinked and was also stunned. Why? Why was he crying again? Wah! Ah! An earth-shattering cry sounded, but it was not Wen's cry, but Fu Yun's. Wen hiccuped and looked at Fu Yun, who was crying loudly, in a daze. Tears still hung at the corners of his eyes. Boo-hoo! Baby, don't you love Mommy anymore? Why do you cry when you see Mommy? Mommy is so sad. Baby, don't you love me anymore? Wah! Boo-hoo! Baby doesn't love Mommy anymore. Fu Yun was sad. Was it because she neglected him and caused him to fall ill, so he cried in protest when he saw her? Would Baby always remember it in his heart? Would it be useless no matter how she tried to make up for it? Baby, I'm sorry. Don't be angry with Mommy. Chiwon was anxious. He did not care about crying and quickly put his little hand under his eyes, trying to stop her tears. No, it's like, don't cry. Chiwon spouted out word by word. He had spoken more words than he had in the past month. Mommy, Mommy, Mommy. Fu Yun was anxiously coaxed by her son for a long time. Then, her tears turned into laughter and she pressed her forehead against his. Mommy loves Baby too. Mommy will grow up with Baby until you grow up and don't need Mommy anymore. Yes, how could he not want her? Even if he was 70 or 80 years old, he still wanted Mommy. Really? Baby will always love Mommy, right? Yes. Mommy will always love Baby too. I love Baby the most. Chiwon reached out to hug both sides of her face and took the initiative to rub his face against hers. He was sorry. He should not have misunderstood. He should not have resisted her existence and held a grudge against her. This woman was the one who gave him life. She was the one who brought him into this world and gave him her wholehearted love. How could he doubt someone who loved him so deeply? I'm sorry. I was wrong. Chiwon felt the unerasable sadness in his heart dissipating. When it completely disappeared, his mood suddenly became much better. He took the initiative to rub his face against her cold, crying face. Mommy, Mommy. His expression and tone were full of attachment. It was only at this moment that he completely accepted this woman's existence. This was his mother. Chiwon revealed a pure and satisfied smile. It was like a ray of light that tore through the night. It became brighter and hotter, dispelling the boundless darkness and bringing warmth. Fu Yun's heart swelled and warmed. She could not help but smile. Her voice was as sweet as sugar. Uncle Mei, his wife, and Uncle Gua looked at the mother and son from the side, full of gratification. Perhaps it was because he had cried so much previously, or perhaps it was because Fu Yun was done crying, but when stopped wailing and quieted down. Perhaps it was because staying in a familiar environment was really useful. When one did not have a fever after that. It was just that he was still a little listless. Moreover, because of his illness, he was even more dependent on Fu Yun. Only by sticking to her would his heart feel at ease. But if Fu Yun did not have the strength to carry him all day long, he could not bear to let her tire herself out. In the end, he was carried by Fu Yun wherever she went. Chiwon lay on her back quietly. His little face rubbed against her from time to time, sniffing the familiar, comfortable, and clean fragrance. This was his mother. Chiwon already knew that not only did he have the memories of his previous life, but his mother also came back from the future. She brought him to live in the countryside to avoid the cause of her death. Perhaps from the moment they came back, everything had changed. But no matter whether it had changed or not, Chiwon secretly decided that he would definitely protect his mother. No matter who it was, no one could hurt his mother. Chiwon did not know if he should tell her that he also had the memories of the future. He was worried that if he told her, she would no longer treat him as a child and protect him wholeheartedly. Instead, she would treat him as an adult. Chiwon thought that he would rather not have those memories. He would rather be a pure child. He would cry when he wanted to cry, laugh when he wanted to laugh, be carefree, and be able to have fun with the people closest to him without restraint. He used to scoff at those children who pestered their parents and acted spoiled and unreasonable. He was very disgusted, but deep down, he was actually envious and even jealous. Only children who were doted on had the right to be willful. Now, he was doted on. The director was wrong. He was not abandoned by his parents and thrown into the orphanage. His mother loved him very, very much. If he could do it all over again, he would enjoy it and be a real child. In his previous life, the heavens did not treat them well, but he would not complain that the heavens were unfair. It had already given them compensation in this life. He had to cherish this hard-won fate between mother and son. After Fu Yun cried, Wenwan was completely comforted. After Wenwan did not act strangely, Uncle Mei and Uncle Gua left the old house to do their own things. Fu Yun only had time to do her own things at this time. She remembered that her phone was already turned off and quickly charged it. Aunt Mei was worried about the mother and son, especially Wenwan, so she kept accompanying them and chatting about trivial matters in the village. The old house had not been lived in for a few days, but it was still very clean and tidy. It was not cold and lifeless either. It could be seen that Aunt Mei often came here. Aunt Mei was someone who could not sit still. She saw that the courtyard was full of work, and she cleaned up the vegetable garden. She even made a sumptuous dinner. Aunt Mei's heart ached terribly. Wen's illness had caused her to suffer, and even the adults had suffered as well. They had to be well nourished. Wen's health improved, and Fu Yun also had an appetite to eat. After eating a delicious dinner, her stomach felt warm, as if the fatigue in her body had been expelled. She saw that her phone was almost fully charged, so she unplugged the charging cable and turned on her phone. The moment she turned it on, she saw dozens of missed calls. More than 10 of them were from Uncle Gua, and the rest were from her livestream assistant and the room manager. Oh no! Fu Yun exclaimed. She had forgotten to tell the platform and fans that the livestream was cancelled today. It was already afternoon, long past the normal livestream time. And because her phone was turned off, her assistant could not contact her. She did not know how chaotic the livestream was. Fu Yun hurriedly replied to her assistant, Sorry, something happened here. I didn't have time to inform you that I won't be able to livestream for the next few days. Less than 2 seconds after the message was sent, the phone rang. Her assistant, Tian, asked in a concerned voice, Yun, are you okay? Yes, I'm fine. Tian, I'm sorry. I forgot to tell all of you that I might not be able to livestream for the next few days. Fu Yun said apologetically, and then briefly told her about Wen's illness. She was so focused on Wenwan that she had long forgotten about the livestream. If she had not seen the missed calls on her phone, she would not have remembered about it. Tian expressed her understanding and put the child first. She asked her to take good care of the child and expressed her concern before ending the call. After Fu Yun hung up the phone, she hurriedly logged into the platform. Sure enough, her platform was about to explode. Her private messages were exploding. Most of them were concerned about whether something had happened to her and asked why she was not live-streaming. Fu Yun Rua hurriedly posted a status. She explained the reason for missing the livestream and said that she would not livestream again before the baby fully recovered. Finally, she said that she would ask Uncle Gua to take good care of Lan Hua. The fans also knew that Uncle Gua was the person who introduced her to Lan Yi and taught her. He could be said to be her teacher. The fans were also very concerned about the health of the old and young. They left messages to comfort her and said that they would wait for her to come back. Although many fans said so, Fu Yun knew in her heart that her popularity would definitely decrease a lot if she stopped broadcasting. Many viewers had already formed a habit because they basically came to watch her live stream. If she stopped broadcasting, the viewers would not be able to watch the live stream. They would definitely lose patience in a few days, and then her popularity would quickly decrease. People always had to make choices. Although she could not bear to give up her popularity, in Fu Yun's heart, the baby was the most important. She wanted to focus on accompanying and taking care of the baby. The baby's illness this time scared her. It was even more frightening than when he suddenly cried in the middle of the night. Fu Yun felt that it might be because she had spent too much time on the live stream and operating the account that she had unintentionally paid less attention to the baby. That was why the baby felt insecure. She reflected on herself and was determined to change. That was her decision. However, she and the baby had only stayed in the old house for 3 days when Wenwen's baby started to make a fuss. He patted the back of Fu Yun's hand and pointed outside as he shouted, "Go! Go!" At first, Fu Yun thought that he wanted to look for Uncle May and Aunt May. Just as she carried him out of the door and turned in another direction, Wenwen said something again. No, no. The direction was wrong. They were not going that way. Where is the baby going? Fu Yun looked at Wenwen's expression and tried to walk in different directions. In the end, she still looked unhappy. Chiwen was anxious. Go, go. Chiwen frowned. It was too difficult for a child to speak. He had already said the words that he wanted to say over and over again, but in the end, he still said them word by word. If he spoke faster, he would not be able to speak clearly. Fu Yun then realized that he wanted to go to the flower garden. Hence, she coaxed him. We'll just stay at home. We won't go there for the time being. Grandpa Guo will help us take care of Hua Hua broadcast. If you don't go over, what will happen to your live broadcast? It was not easy for you to accumulate so much popularity. If you don't broadcast now, everyone will leave. I'm not going to broadcast. Mommy will stay at home with Wenwen. When Wenwen recovers, Mommy will go and earn money. No? He was almost recovered. Chiwen was so angry that his cheeks were puffed up. This illness came and went quickly. Perhaps it was because he had let go of the pent-up frustrations in his heart and completely opened his mind. Chiwen's illness also recovered quickly. After resting for 3 days, he was already much more energetic. He only coughed occasionally. He believed that in less than 2 days, he would be able to fully recover. The entertainment industry and the live broadcast industry had many things in common. Popularity needed to be managed. Just like how a typical celebrity's popularity would fade if they did not have any new works for a long time, it was the same for live broadcasts. Chiwen was extremely worried. If one day his popularity dropped so much, wouldn't he be so sad that he would cry? Baby, be good. Grandpa and Grandma miss baby. Let's go and accompany them, okay? Fu Yun coaxed him as she walked towards the May family's house. Before she reached the May family's house, she heard lively sounds coming from the May family's courtyard. Fu Yun walked forward. A group of uncles and aunties were basking in the sun as they chatted. Fu Yun walked into the courtyard and greeted everyone. Then, she asked curiously, "What are you talking about? Why was it so lively?" "Hey, Yun Ruo, you don't know. Something big happened in our neighborhood," an auntie said mysteriously. "What big thing?" Fu Yun asked cooperatively. Another auntie interrupted. "In our town, a murderer was caught this morning." Fu Yun took a deep breath. A murderer? Was it that scary? Hey, isn't it just a suspect? That's right. It's just that he hasn't been convicted yet. Now that he's caught by the Public Security Bureau, won't he be convicted? My nephew works at the police station. I heard that he escaped from a big city and came to our town. Our transportation here is not convenient. We are far away from the big city and surrounded by mountains. Some of the mountains are too deep, and we don't dare to go in without a few companions. Isn't this a good place to hide? Fortunately, he was caught. Otherwise, it wouldn't be safe for us to go out. That's right. I heard that this murderer is very cruel. The group of people once again began to discuss animatedly. The place they were in was relatively isolated. Once there was a piece of fresh news, it would spread quickly and be discussed for a long time. Perhaps many things were spread and lost the truth, but people enjoyed it. We are surrounded by mountains. Basically, we rarely see outsiders. Who doesn't know each other in the surrounding villages? The public security officers outside tracked him here and cooperated with our comrades at the police station. As long as the person didn't hide in the deep mountains and forests, how could they not find him? That's right. How can it be so easy to hide in the deep mountains and forests? There's no food and shelter. Can't they only go to town to buy things? There's no food in the fields in the middle of winter. They can't steal. When Chiwen suddenly heard such terrifying news, he couldn't be bothered to be angry. He pricked up his ears to listen to the gossip seriously. Fu Yun also listened seriously and couldn't help but feel scared. Fortunately, she didn't meet him that night. Otherwise, She and the baby might have met with misfortune. She even had an intuition that perhaps she really had a brush with death that night. At that time, she really had an intuition that she was going to meet with misfortune. That kind of mysterious feeling still made her hair stand on end when she thought about it. In the end, it was her son's sudden cry that broke the treacherous atmosphere. Fu Yun thought that the baby was really her lucky star. He was the one who pulled her back from the brink of death. At this time, she also had an intuition that her death was already over. Her life was completely free from the influence of the plot. She didn't have to be afraid and worry about when an accident would befall her. Fu Yun couldn't help but lower her head and rub Qi Wen's face with a warm smile. Qi Wen, who was listening to the gossip seriously, was suddenly intimately rubbed against his face. Although he didn't know why, his body instinctively moved back. Qi Wen thought in distress. There was no other way. This woman was too clingy. What could he do? The mother and son were so clingy that people couldn't help but smile. Chapter 21. Fu Yun returned to the flower bed on the fourth day. She could not resist Wen Wen's insistence, so she could only bring him over. When Uncle Gua saw the mother and son, he was happy for a moment. Then, he pulled a long face and said unhappily, "Why are you here so soon? You don't need to be in a hurry to take care of this place. I can do it alone." When one is so sick, he has to recuperate well, Fu Yun said helplessly. When one has been clamoring to come over. "I can't do anything about it," then she said. "I've already brought Wen for a follow-up. He's almost recovered, but he still has a little cough. He'll be fine after stewing some rock sugar and pear for him to moisten his throat." It was not good for a child to take too much medicine. After confirming that he did not need to take medicine, Aunt May specially bought pear and rock sugar and asked her to bring them over to stew some water for the child to stop his cough. Wen, who was tied on his back, tried his best to poke his head out. A pair of big black eyes were revealed as he shouted at Uncle Gua, "Master!" Yes. Uncle Gua's stern face could no longer be maintained. He smiled like a flower. Yes. With Wen Wen's appearance, Uncle Gua instantly stopped saying anything. He waved his hand and asked her to put Wen down. Then, he walked out of the flower shed. Fu Yun untied the child and placed him on the blanket in the flower shed. She scratched his smooth little face. "You little bootlicker." Wen looked up at her with an innocent face. "Mom." "Yes," Fu Yun replied. Uncle Gua quickly brought a bunch of new toys over and asked Fu Yun to do her own things. He would take care of Wen himself. Fu Yun was not at ease letting Wen out of her sight. It was not that she did not trust Uncle Gua, but that she would always miss him when she was not watching him. Fu Yun was still reluctant to part with him. Wen had already waved his little hand. Broadcast. Then, he picked up a small running car and played with it by the side, ignoring Fu Yun. Fu Yun Ruo. Was this still the same baby that stuck to her all the time? It had only been a few days, and he no longer needed her company. Fu Yun could only go to the small greenhouse. She quickly posted a status update, informing them that the live stream would begin in 15 minutes. During these 15 minutes, Fu Yun had familiarized herself with the greenhouse and the live stream equipment. Uncle Gua had been taking care of the orchids in the greenhouse for the past few days. Every orchid in the petri dish was growing well. They were green and full of vitality. 15 minutes later, she opened the live broadcast room on time. "You're finally here. Yun, you're back. Heart to heart. I can't believe it. Yun has finally started broadcasting." The moment the broadcast started, the number on the popularity screen jumped up and only slowed down when it broke through the 100,000 mark. During this time, the number 1 on the fan list, the digital nouveau riche, also entered. Fu Yun was very surprised. She had already prepared for her live stream's popularity to be cut in half, but looking at the situation, it did not seem as bad as she had imagined. A bunch of bullet screen comments swarmed in on the screen, and some of them even overlapped. Fu Yun Ruo was dazzled for a moment, and the digital nouveau riche also expressed his greetings. The words were surrounded by a circle of light, and it was very eye-catching among the crowd. After seeing most of the questions, Fu Yun Ruo said, "Long time no see. I'm Yun. I'm sorry to have made you wait for so long. Thank you for your concern. Zai Zai is doing very well. She no longer had a fever 4 days ago, and her condition has improved in the past 2 days. Now, she just has a small cough. Fu Yunrua seriously explained Wenwen's situation in detail, and then thanked the fans for their concern. Then, Fu Yunrua could not help but say, "Actually, I planned to wait until Zai Zai had completely recovered before doing the live stream. However, Zai Zai kept clamoring to come yesterday and wanted me to do the live stream. She was even unhappy if I didn't come. She knows me well. Werwu, Zai Zai is so considerate. Mama loves Zai Zai. Zai Zai is so obedient, but you can't ignore Zai Zai because of this." There were too many questions on the bullet screen. Fu Yunrua directly chose to answer the questions that she had seen more. "Yes, Uncle Gua is helping to take care of the children now. I'll be careful. I'll definitely take good care of our children." Huh? That's not right. Fu Yunrua realized that she had been led astray by the bunch of children on the screen. Fu Yunrua quickly corrected herself. "I'll definitely take good care of my children." After chatting for a while, the audience's attention began to be diverted to other things. "Ah, Yunrua, let me see my sick son. I haven't seen him for so many days. I really miss him to death. Yunrua, let me take a look at my children. It's been so many days. I wonder if they've grown up. Did they grow an extra leaf? My seventh son." The screen was filled with comments expressing their longing, asking for their children, brothers, and sisters to appear on the screen. At this moment, the digital nouveau riche also sent a message reminder. 11. Fu Yunrua answered one by one. "The children are all fine. The eldest has grown up a little." Fu Yunrua counted their changes one by one. From the seeds of the orchids to the sprouts now, Fu Yunrua had witnessed their growth with her own eyes and was familiar with every change. Previously, she did not feel that she missed them. Now that she looked at these sprouts, she thought that her feelings were the same as the audience. Although these orchids were not as important as the babies in her heart, they were still very important. This time, Fu Yunrua broadcast for a long time. She originally only wanted to give a simple explanation and talk to the audience. However, as more and more viewers poured in, Fu Yunrua unknowingly said a lot. The audience listened with relish and interacted enthusiastically. They almost fought on the screen because they wanted more screen time for the orchids. They seemed to want to make up for 6 to 7 days of live stream viewership at once. When the live stream ended, Fu Yunrua took a look. There were more than 250,000 viewers. It was a little different from the 300,000 viewers she had before she stopped the live stream. However, this was much better than she had imagined. She thought that it would be good if there were tens of thousands of viewers. At worst, it would be back to square one. She did not expect that those familiar IDs were still there. This meant that the effect of her live stream was not bad. The audience was very loyal. Fu Yunrua secretly decided that she would do a better live stream in the future to repay the love of her fans. She walked out of the greenhouse and saw the babies and Uncle was squatting together at first glance. Fu Yunrua walked over quickly. When Rua saw Fu Yunrua he immediately threw away a block in his hand and stood up as if he wanted to walk towards her. However, the child's leg bones had not fully developed. As soon as he stood up, before he could take a small step, he trembled and squatted down one by one. Not only that, his small body lost its balance and leaned back. Uncle Gua, who was at the side, held him in time. Otherwise, he would have fallen onto the blocks. Fu Yunrua hurriedly went over to carry him up. She sat on the carpet and crossed her legs. She placed the babies on her lap and rubbed his chubby little buttocks. "Babies, did you hurt from the fall?" "It doesn't hurt, it doesn't hurt." Fu Yunrua saw that he seemed to be in disbelief and could not help but laugh in her heart. She comforted him with a serious expression on her face. "Mommy will blow on it. It hurts so much." The carpet on the floor was thick and soft. Chiwen did not feel any pain when he fell. It was just that his self-esteem made him feel embarrassed. He did not expect that not only did he not know how to walk, he could not even stand properly. He had practiced for so long before. It was too embarrassing. "Babies, don't be discouraged. Work hard to drink milk and eat more food. You will be able to walk very soon." Fu Yunrua encouraged him. The babies had just learned how to stand up by holding on to things. He could not stand for too long. There was still a distance before he could stand properly. When he could stand properly, he would not be far from walking. Babies are the best. Chiwon listened to Fu Yunrua's gentle voice and thought that since he was a baby, it was normal for him not to know how to walk. Mommy. Yes, Mommy is here. Baby Won lay in his mother's arms. His 2 little feet dangled in the air and swayed comfortably. Uncle Gua saw that after Fu Yunrua's live broadcast, Wen's mother would take care of him. He got up and went to work, leaving the mother and son alone. Wen's bright eyes, which had just recovered, looked at Fu Yunrua. He did not know how much his popularity had dropped after so many days of live broadcast. Was Mommy very sad to see that his popularity had dropped so much? Thinking of this, Chiwon put his little hand on her. Broadcast? How was the live broadcast? It did not matter even if his popularity was not there. He could accumulate it again. At the mention of this, Fu Yunrua smiled and said happily, Babies, our popularity did not drop much. Many people are concerned about us. They are all so concerned about the babies. Chiwon listened and felt relieved. Then, he thought proudly that she was indeed his mother. She was so popular. After enjoying the gentle comfort from her mother, Wen turned over and climbed to the front of the exquisite, semi-finished, small castle in 3 steps. He waved his little hand and looked as if he had built this for him. He said proudly, Kong. Fu Yunrua said in surprise, Wow, is this the castle that my babies built? It's so beautiful. Babies are so awesome. Babies are so awesome. You are the smartest babies that Mommy has ever seen. Chiwon was so elated by the praise that his 4 white baby teeth were exposed. Grandpa. After he was done laughing, he even brought Grandpa Gua out. Grandpa Gua had also helped. He would not take all the credit for himself. Fu Yunrua continued to praise him. This small castle made of building blocks was as tall as Wen's small body. It was a new toy that Uncle Gua had bought. Now that more than half of it was completed, the framework was already out. Only then did Chiwon pick up a piece of scattered building blocks in satisfaction and prepare to continue building the castle. Since his mother liked it so much, he wanted to show her the finished product. How could he only look at the half-finished product? Fu Yunrua was full of smiles and helped him from time to time. Suddenly, she thought of something and quickly picked up her phone. She chose an angle that did not show her face and recorded a video. In order to thank the fans for their concern for Wen, Fu Yunrua decided to record a short video without showing her face for everyone to see. After recording, Fu Yunrua sent it to the computer and edited it before uploading it to the homepage. In the video, Wen's back was facing the camera. He was sitting in front of the building blocks and seriously setting them up. Occasionally, when the position was too high, he tilted his head as if he was distressed and thinking of a solution. Then, he crawled away and pushed a small rubber stool over. Then, he stood up with the help of the small rubber stool and tried his best to raise his chubby hands and put them on it. His chubby little butt was especially eye-catching. After installing the last building block, Wen pointed happily. Look! The video moved to the beautiful little castle that had been built and then ended. This short video, which was 1 minute and 38 seconds long, was uploaded. The comment section was very lively. Ah, little cutie, did you grow up drinking cuteness? My home child, how is this is cute. My little one is really cute. Is this the castle that my child gave to his mother? My little one is really cute and handsome. He has outstanding talent and is smarter than others. Suck, suck, suck. My child. My little one. Ruarua. The people who liked the most in the comment section were those who asked Fu Yunrua to upload more videos of her little one. They all condemned her for being biased. They would throw a tantrum if she only shared the eldest one to the 11th one all day and left out the little one. Fu Yunrua was happy and proud. My baby is the cutest in the world. No one can resist his cuteness. Fu Yunrua's days returned to their usual pace. Every day, she broadcast for 3 hours. 1 hour was spent dealing with online matters. The rest was spent raising children and flowers. Fu Yunrua often received private messages or comments. Some of them wanted to start raising flowers but did not know what species to raise. Some of them had some problems with their orchids and asked her for solutions. There were also many orchid artists who shared their experience with her. The platform promoted her again. The popularity that she had lost last time slowly recovered and continued to rise. Because of the popularity of the live broadcast, many businesses and related industries came to her door and wanted to advertise in the live broadcast. When she first became popular, many businesses came to her door. For example, some bought and sold flowers, some bought and sold soil for cultivation, and some related tools. However, they were all brands that were not guaranteed. At least, Uncle Gua did not like them. Uncle Gua's understanding of Lan Yi's industry could be said to be at the peak. He was clear about the internal situation over the past few decades. Fu Yunruo did not dare to accept those that he did not think highly of. Fu Yunruo rejected all the invitations at that time and said that she would not consider accepting advertisements. Anyway, she was not short of money now. The most important thing was to be responsible for the audience. And now, another client wanted to invite her to be their spokesperson. The client who came to her door this time was very valuable. When Fu Yunruo heard this name, she thought that wasn't this the brand that their flower nursery often used. This time, the client came to her through the platform. Fu Yunruo thought about it and went to ask Uncle Gua for his opinion. Uncle Gua, the person in charge of the horticultural home, came to me and wanted me to endorse their family's cultivation base. The soil used in the flower nursery was basically from their family. If Uncle Gua could use it for a long time, it meant that the quality was very good. Fu Yunruo did not have to worry about these problems. However, she still wanted to confirm with Uncle Gua. When Uncle Gua heard Fu Yunruo's words, he did not think much and nodded directly. Who looked for you? Who did you discuss the contract with? The Tan family's son is an old fox. You're still young. Don't be fooled. Uncle Gua pondered for a moment. I'll go and talk to his father. Fu Yunruo was stunned. If she remembered correctly, the owner of the horticultural home was surnamed Tan. Was the Tan family's son the young master of the horticultural home? Was this still the Uncle Gua she knew? Uncle Gua wore gray clothes all day long and stayed in this small plot of land every day. If she had not bought a few sets of clothes to show filial piety to him, he would have taken turns to wear those few sets of clothes all year round. She never expected that Uncle Gua would actually know someone who seemed to be from a different world. What? Uncle Gua saw her expression and his face instantly darkened. Did she not believe him and think that he was boasting? No. Fu Yunruo closed her shocked jaw and flattered, Uncle Gua, you're too amazing. With you around, I'm relieved. Uncle Gua snorted coldly. Wait. Fu Yunruo nodded repeatedly. Uncle Gua took out his phone and dialed a number. Then, he said in a very aggressive tone, Old man Tan, your family wants my family's Yunruo to endorse? Let me tell you, if you dare to let Yunruo suffer, I won't let you off. Fu Yunruo, was it really okay to say this? The facts proved that it was really okay. Not long after, Uncle Gua gave her a phone number and asked her to contact the person in charge of negotiating the contract. Fu Yunruo gave the number to her assistant, Tian Tian. 2 hours later, she received a call from Tian Tian and heard her excited voice. Her endorsement contract was actually the treatment of an A-list celebrity, and the conditions were very relaxed. It was simply a pie that had been smashed. In the end, Fu Yunruo hung up the phone with a mystified expression and looked at Uncle Gua with admiration. Uncle Gua looked reserved and proud. I used to be in the outside world. Fu Yunruo thought to herself, what kind of luck did she have to actually meet such a reclusive big shot and even become his student? Was her luck turning for the better after suffering? After being excited, Fu Yunruo thought about it again. Actually, there were already signs that Uncle Gua was not an ordinary person. There were so many expensive orchids in the flower shed. If he sold them, he would become a millionaire in minutes. And Uncle Gua had a student who was doing well in the entertainment industry. Then, what about his other students? Could it be that they were also some industry elites? Uncle Gua had been in Lan Yi for so many years. His professional skills were at the peak of perfection. He was probably a legend in this circle. Therefore, it was normal for him to know the big shots in the relevant industries. It was just that Uncle Gua's usual behavior was too ordinary. This was also a remote mountain area that was isolated and backward. She often thought that she was just an ordinary flower farmer. What kind of luck did she have to actually learn from such an amazing person? Fu Yun Ruorua thought to herself that she had to work harder. Although Uncle Gua had never admitted that she was his student, she learned Lan Yi from Uncle Gua. She could not embarrass Uncle Gua. Chapter 22. The village in the remote mountain valley was quiet and peaceful, far away from the hustle and bustle of the city. It was like a paradise, and even the pace of time was slow. The morning in the village was comfortable and tranquil, and the birds on the branches made crisp and melodious chirping sounds. A group of children suddenly rushed out of the alley, breaking the silence, and the village suddenly became lively and lively. They ran in the same direction happily, and before they reached their destination, the children's voices were excitedly shouting a name. 1-1, 1-1. After a while, more than 10 children all stood at the gate of a farmhouse. They stretched their necks and shouted, 1-1, come out quickly. 1-1. Not long after, a little fatty came out from behind the gate. At that moment, it seemed that all the light was poured on him. Tuanzi's big black grape-like eyes were bright and spirited. Her eyelashes were long and curly, and her skin was snow-white. Her small hands and feet were chubby, and the baby fat on her face made people want to pinch and poke to see if it was as good as imagined. As soon as the little fatty came out, he was surrounded by a group of children of different heights. 1-1, let's go and play. 1-1, play with us. 1-1, let's play hide and seek today. 1-1, more than 2 years passed by leisurely. Adults may feel that years passed in the blink of an eye, and there was no change except for the increase in age. The passage of time was very obvious in children. The little mythological beast changed from a mollusk to a reptile, to a toddler learning to walk with its short legs, and to a fast runner. It only took 2 or 3 years. This cute and adorable dumpling was Fu-Wen. Chi-Wen admitted that Fu Yun had given him the name, but he was only willing to admit half of it. He thought that his name was Fu-Wen, not Fu-Wanwen. This name was not in line with his handsome face when he grew up. If the haters in his previous life knew about it, they would definitely laugh their heads off. Therefore, Fu-Wen insisted that his name was Fu-Wen. However, these children called him Wen-Wen all day long. He didn't correct them one by one, so he just let them be. Wen-Wen looked up at the group of children who were quarreling with each other in order to play with her. She sighed sadly in her heart. Being too popular was also a kind of trouble. At this moment, a soft and small hand quietly reached out and grabbed his hand. Wen-Wen turned his head and looked over. The little girl, who was a head taller than him, gave him an adorable smile. The 5-year-old Dian Dian said softly, 1-1, let's play house. I'll be the mother, and you'll be the baby. A tan little fatty squeezed over and said loudly, 1-1 won't play house with you girls. 1-1 wants to play Japanese with us. Dian Dian was startled by the loud voice and looked at the little fatty timidly. Then, it looked at Wen-Wan with tears in its eyes. The 6-year-old girl, shouted back, 1-1 doesn't play your game. It's not fun at all. It's not fun to play house. None of your games are fun. 1-1, let's go catch some fish and shrimp. We'll give the fish and shrimp we catch to Sister Ruoruo and make porridge. Hearing this, Fu-Wen was a little moved. The streams and rivers here had not been polluted by industry, so the fish and shrimp they caught were edible. After washing them, they were placed in a pot with rice and cooked with some ginger and oil. The result was a pot of fragrant fish and shrimp porridge. The group of children who wished they could pierce through the sky often climbed trees to catch birds and eggs, went down to the river to catch fish, shrimp, loaches, and snails. Whenever they found something new, they would bring it all to the Fu family and gather there to eat. However, the new year had just passed, and the weather was still a little cold. The adults wouldn't let the children go into the water, so they could only dream about it. Wen-Wen didn't want his mother to worry, so he could only express his regret. They were still quarreling, and there was no decision for a long time. Stop quarreling. The cute little voice didn't have any power, but as soon as the voice came out, the quarreling children instantly quieted down and looked at the snowy little ball, waiting for him to make a choice. Wen-Wen said in a voice that he thought was cool, but was actually cute, I don't play these childish games. The children, ranging from 4 to 12 years old, all looked at Wen-Wen. Then, Little Shirtu blinked and asked foolishly, "Then are we going to play a hero game?" "No." Wenwen said seriously, "Today we're going to play the Emperor game. I want to be the Emperor. I want to be the Empress Dowager." Dian Dian was the first to respond. She was quite cautious and wanted to be the mother of her favorite Wenwen. Yi hesitated and thought of the most impressive character in the TV series. "Then I want to be the Empress." The group of children originally liked to watch cartoons, but Wenwen liked to watch TV shows that adults like to watch, so they gave up their favorite cartoons and accompanied Wenwen to watch TV shows. A few days ago, they watched a TV series about the Emperor, so they all wanted to play the character that left a deep impression on them. "I want to be the Prime Minister. I want to be an official." "Being an official is not an official position." "Then I want to be a treacherous official." Little Shirtu saw that his friends had chosen the character they wanted to play, so he said, Then I want to be a concubine." Yi said, "You're a boy, so you can't be a beloved concubine." Little Shirtu felt wronged. "Why not?" Yi tilted her head. She didn't know why, but the concubines in the TV series were all girls. She said, "You can't be one." Little Shita's eyes suddenly became teary. He looked at Wenwen and choked with sobs. "I want to be the person closest to Wenwen." However, the girl refused to let him mix into the group of girls. Little Shita's tears were about to fall, but Wenwen said seriously, "Then I'll make you my head of internal affairs. That's the person I trust the most." When Little Shirtu heard this, he immediately smiled through his tears. "Okay, I want to be the head of internal affairs." The children were assigned their roles and crowded around Wenwen as they left the courtyard. Wenwen assigned them lines according to their roles. No matter the age of the children, they all tried to remember the lines of the roles they were going to play and the order of appearance. Not long after, under Wenwen's guidance, a treacherous officialdom reappeared. However, under the children's affectionate acting, there was no feeling of fighting and scheming or fighting in the harem. The adults passing by laughed every time they saw it. The children's serious and childish voices said the lines of the fight between the harem and the officials. It was really too funny. However, the children felt that they were super great. Not only did they remember the lines, but they also cooperated and acted it out. Although each of them only had one or two short lines, they were still very good at it. Moreover, they automatically added scenes for themselves. For example, the Empress Dowager and the head of internal affairs were competing for favor. For example, the loyal officials, in order to obtain the emperor's favor, had internal strife and almost fought. Wenwen sat majestically on a small wooden bench prop, the dragon throne. She had a chubby little face and looked at the group of children who were acting so well that she couldn't watch them. She sighed sadly. It was really too difficult for him. Then, she seriously taught them how to play the roles again and again. The group of children played with relish until noon. At the call of the adults, they all prepared to go home for lunch. Zhuang Zhuang, who was as thin as a black monkey, pulled Wenwen and swallowed his saliva. "Wenwen, come to my house for lunch. My family slaughtered a chicken. I'll give you a big drumstick to eat." Zhuang Zhuang's family never mistreated him. They never lacked food and toys. However, he was a premature baby. When he was born, he was thin and small. His family carefully raised him and even named him Zhuang Zhuang, hoping that he would grow stronger. However, no matter how much he ate, he was still thin and small, like a malnourished child. Little Shirtu also wanted Wenwen to go to his house, but his family didn't slaughter a chicken in the morning. He didn't want to fall behind and shouted, "Wenwen, come to my house. I'll ask my grandmother to kill a big rooster for you to eat." At this time, a gentle and smiling female voice interrupted, "Thank you, children, for the invitation, but Wenwen has to go home and eat with me." The children looked up and saw a graceful and beautiful figure approaching from afar. Her soft black hair was braided and hung diagonally on the left side of her face. It made her palm-sized face look even more delicate. "Older sister Roro." The children shouted happily. Fuyan looked at the group of children with a smile and said softly, "My family also made delicious food. Children, come to my house." They looked up at Fu Yun and giggled as they ran away. "No need, older sister Roro." Then, they ran away like a swarm of bees. Fu Yun looked at Wenwen, whose cheeks were red from playing, and touched his little face. Although he wasn't sweating, It was still hot. Wen, did you have fun? Fu Yun asked softly as she held his little hand and walked home. Wen held Fu Yun's hand and unconsciously jumped up and down. Then, he realized that his behavior was too childish and seriously walked with small steps. When he heard Fu Yun's question, he curled his lips and said reservedly, "Just this year's underlings were too difficult to take care of. Although they listened to him most of the time, they occasionally disobeyed him. It was enough to give him a headache." As the king of the children in the village, from the age of 13 to the age of 1, Fu Wen often had this problem. These children are really too difficult to take care of. A little boy who was not even 4 years old said this sentence in an old-fashioned manner. Fu Yun was very amused and didn't expose this duplicitous child. Today was the weekend, and the primary school and kindergarten were on holiday. There were many more children who came to play with Wen than usual, and the little boy was obviously happier. "Mom, have you finished discussing the cooperation?" Fu Wen looked up and asked. He was very worried. Not only did he have to worry about his underlings, but he also had to worry about his mother's career. "It's done, little housekeeper," Fu Yun said with a smile. In 2 years, Fu Yun didn't seem to have changed much. No, there should be changes. The comfortable and peaceful life polished her temperament. During this period of time, Fu Yun's popularity had undergone an earth-shattering change, and she had become a first-tier anchor in the live broadcast circle. Among the orchids that she cultivated with all her heart, the 7th He orchid and the 10th star butterfly orchid had bloomed a month ago. The pictures of the blooming orchids attracted widespread attention and spread in the circle. At first, there was some popularity, but it didn't go out of the circle. Later, Fu Yun saw that in the past 2 years, she would take at least 2 photos every day from morning to night. There were about 5,000 photos of each type of orchid. She had an idea and imported these photos into the editor. She spent half a month carefully editing them into a video that was 3 minutes and 38 seconds long. The video started from the seeds of the orchids, to them breaking out of the ground and growing tender buds, to them becoming seedlings, growing buds, and until the flowers bloomed. They swayed, and there were thousands of poses. It was so beautiful that it took people's breath away. People seemed to have witnessed the miracle of life from the video and experienced a visual feast. As for the fans who had participated in the growth process of the orchids from the beginning or midway, they were even more touched. It was like a child that they had painstakingly raised had grown into the most beautiful thing in the world. They were proud and touched, and even shed tears. Fu Yun's video went viral. Not only on the forum, but also in other places, it was reposted again and again. And this hot trend was reposted and commented on by the semi-official and semi-private Lani Association official account. Life blooming was the most moving gesture. After that, it went viral. Not long after, it was reposted and liked by other official accounts, pushing her and the video to an even higher peak. The number of views of the video on the forum was as high as billions. Fu Yun's orchids under the lens were full of spiritual energy. The video, made from thousands of such lively photos, attracted the attention of the world with a stunning gesture. Just like the popular comments with many likes said, the author definitely loved orchids and loved life. I saw everything she loved and was moved by her love. Many netizens also commented that after seeing this video, they, who were originally frustrated, sad, or disappointed in life, slowly calmed down. It was as if they had been healed and had reignited hope. There were also netizens who said that the tinnitus caused by his anxiety disorder had been irritating him for a long time, and it had seriously affected his life. After watching this video, all the anxiety had magically disappeared. His ears no longer heard the irritating noise, but the sound of flowers blooming. Regardless of whether the netizens were telling the truth or not, this video really went viral. Even people who had no interest in flowers were not stingy in admiring the beauty of the flowers. A good piece of work had such charm. Fu Yun's number of fans also instantly broke through the 10 million mark because of this video and rapidly rose. Many passers-by fell into this trap because of this video. Less than 2 days later, a heavenly queen was about to release an album. It was an ancient-style xinxia. Coincidentally, the identity of the MV's female lead was an orchid demon. When their team saw this video, they were shocked. Hence, they found Fu Yun herself, hoping to sign a contract for the commercial use of the video and use it in the MV. The Heavenly Queen's team offered very generous conditions. After they discussed with Fu Yun's manager, they quickly finalized the cooperation. Good things came in pairs. At the same time, the Lani Association also contacted Fu Yun, wanting to buy the copyright of the video for the association's publicity. The cooperation with the Heavenly Queen was discussed by the manager, and the cooperation with the Lani Association was led by Fu Yun personally. The Lani Association tried to buy the copyright of this video for the association's publicity. Fu Yun was very supportive of this kind of publicity, but she did not agree to let this video completely become the association's. Moreover, she had already authorized the Heavenly Queen. Fu Yun took out her other video. After she finished the first video, she started to make the second one. Because of her previous experience, her speed was even faster. However, she had not uploaded this video yet. The popularity of the first video had not passed, so the manager felt that it was not the best time to upload it. The Lani Association met Fu Yun with another orchid video. After watching the work, it was even more visually stunning than the first one. Especially since it had not appeared in the public before, they immediately decided to use this video as a publicity video. After the two sides agreed on the cooperation plan, Fu Yun would be the publicity ambassador specially hired by the Lani Association and use this video to promote the association. The copyright of the video would belong to her, but it would be tagged with the Lani Association's tag. The video would appear as a publicity video. After these two collaborations were completed, her fame would also rise to another level. When that time came, as long as she did not court death or make a mistake of principle, her status in the live streaming industry would be unshakable. When one heard Fu Yun say that the cooperation was successful, she was very happy. She could not help but grin, revealing her neat and white baby teeth. "Mommy is so awesome. Mommy is so awesome." When one proudly stuck out her little belly. She was indeed his mother. She was so awesome. He was proud of her. Fu Yun was instantly overjoyed. No matter how much fame or money she had, it could not make her happier than when Wen's praise. Fu Yun also praised, "Wen is also the best. Mommy is the best. Wen is the best. Haha. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.